Finally, the day arrived. Harry, with his belongings neatly packed, including the now shrunken Enchanted Haven briefcase, stood at King's Cross Station, looking for platform 9 3/4. The hidden platform, accessible only to those in the know, was a gateway to the magical world he was about to join. With Petunia accompanying him, Harry approached the seemingly solid barrier between platforms 9 and 10. There was a palpable sense of anticipation in the air. As they passed through the magical barrier, the sight that greeted them was nothing short of wondrous. The Hogwarts Express, with its gleaming scarlet engine and billowing steam, stood majestically, ready to embark on its journey to the magical school. Harry's eyes sparkled with excitement, mirroring the same wonder that had been in his mother Lily's eyes decades ago. Petunia, standing beside him, was equally awestruck. It was her third time witnessing this marvel. The first time, she had been with Lily, her younger sister, both of them wide-eyed with wonder. The second time, the emotions were tinged with jealousy and a sense of loss as she watched Lily depart into a world where she couldn't follow. Now, years later, she was here again, not with envy but with pride and excitement for her nephew, Harry. As they took in the bustling platform, crowded with students and their families, owls hooting in their cages, and cats peeking out of their carriers, Petunia's gaze softened. She turned to Harry and said with a nostalgic smile, "Go on, Harry. Your mother used to say it's a pain in the bum to find an empty compartment. Best hurry and find a good spot." Harry nodded, understanding the practical wisdom in her words. He turned to face her, the emotions of the moment welling up inside him. This was not just a journey to school, it was the beginning of a new chapter in his life, a step towards understanding his heritage and embracing his true identity. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Petunia in a warm, heartfelt hug. "Thank you, Aunt Petunia," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Petunia returned the hug, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You take care, Harry," she whispered back. "And remember, you're always welcome home." As they parted, Petunia took a moment to observe her nephew. Harry, once a frail and unassuming boy, had undergone a remarkable transformation. He stood there, his posture exuding a newfound confidence that belied his youth. His attire was a statement in itself, a pair of sleek black jeans paired with a striking green shirt that accentuated the emerald depth of his eyes. The unruly hair, once a messy tangle, was now styled in a way that framed his face, still carefully hiding the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. It was a mark that spoke of his unique past and the extraordinary journey ahead of him. Gone was the malnourished appearance of his earlier years. Harry's body had developed a lean muscularity, a testament to the rigorous physical training he had undertaken. His height, too, had increased, adding to his commanding presence. He moved with an easy grace, each step radiating a sense of purpose and determination. Petunia watched him, a mix of pride and nostalgia swirling in her heart. Here was the living legacy of her sister Lily, ready to step into a world that had once been closed to her. The change in Harry was not just physical. The once timid boy who lived under the stairs had matured into someone who faced the world head-on, unafraid of its challenges. Harry's transformation was not just a product of physical growth. His time with Nigel had cultivated in him a sharp mind and a witty demeanor. Nigel's influence was evident in Harry's quick responses and the clever glint in his eye, a subtle but unmistakable sign of the mental gymnastics he was accustomed to. As Harry walked towards the train, his gaze swept over the bustling platform. His keen observation skills allowed him to take in the details of his surroundings, the anxious first years clutching their parents' hands, the raucous laughter of returning students, and the stern faces of the prefects guiding the newcomers. Harry's approach to the Hogwarts Express was marked by a sense of awe and wonder. It wasn't just a train, it was a symbol of a new chapter in his life, a passage to a world where he truly belonged. He climbed aboard with a deep breath, feeling a thrilling rush of anticipation. Finding an empty compartment, Harry settled in, his mind racing with thoughts of the adventures that awaited him at Hogwarts. He was keenly aware of the challenges that lay ahead, mastering magic, understanding the complexities of the wizarding world, and navigating the social dynamics of a school filled with young witches and wizards from diverse backgrounds. Harry Potter, nestled comfortably in an empty compartment of the Hogwarts Express, opened his book, The Little Prince. He sought a light read for the journey, a respite from the intense preparations he had undertaken for his first year at Hogwarts. Calm and collected, he believed in the efficacy of his training and felt no need for last-minute cramming. Instead, he chose to embrace the moment, letting himself relax when the train would chug rhythmically through the English countryside. As he delved into the pages, his mind partially on the story and partially on the adventures that awaited him, the compartment door slid open with a certain brashness. In stepped a boy of about 11, his hair a striking shade of blonde, almost silver in the train's soft light. His face, aristocratic and haughty, bore an expression of confidence that bordered on arrogance. Behind him loomed two considerably larger boys, their stances suggesting they were more brawn than brain, clearly the companions and possibly the cronies of the blonde boy. The blonde boy's sharp, calculating eyes scanned the compartment and landed on Harry. "I heard Harry Potter was here," he declared, his voice carrying a tone of entitlement and curiosity. I came to make an acquaintance. Harry, unfazed by the interruption, calmly closed his book and stood up. His movements were graceful and deliberate, reflecting the noble etiquette he had meticulously learned from his readings. Over the months, Harry had delved into books about nobility, absorbing their manners and behaviors. He understood the power of first impressions and the subtle art of manipulation, starting with striking at one's pride. I am Harry Potter, heir of the most ancient and noble Potter family, he replied, his voice warm and welcoming, a smile playing on his lips. Nice to meet you. His every word and gesture were a dance of charm and politeness, yet behind his friendly demeanor lay a keen, observing mind. The blond boy, taken aback by Harry's poise and confidence, hesitated for a moment before regaining his composure. Well, Heir Potter, I am Draco Malfoy, heir of the most ancient and noble Malfoy family. These two are Crabbe and Goyle. He began, introducing himself with a family name that Harry recognized but chose not to react outwardly. Harry's smile remained intact, his eyes locking with the boy's in a silent, respectful acknowledgement. Nigel hummed with a touch of humor at the situation. Quite the royal audience we have here, Master Harry, he remarked, his tone laced with an underlying wit. Do tread carefully, nobility often comes with its own set of rules and games. Harry squeezed Draco Malfoy's hand with a firm yet courteous grip, a practiced smile gracing his features. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Heir Draco, he said, his tone carrying the refined cadence of a well-bred wizard. And of course, welcome to you as well, Sir Crabbe and Sir Goyle. Draco, slightly thrown off by Harry's polished demeanor, managed a smile of his own, though it seemed less certain than his usual smug expression. Yes, thank you, Heir Potter. I've heard quite a bit about you, you know. Draco, slightly thrown off by Harry's polished demeanor, managed a smile of his own, though it seemed less certain than his usual smug expression. Yes, thank you, Heir Potter. I've heard quite a bit about you, you know. Harry's eyes twinkled with unspoken amusement, but he maintained his cordial front. Oh, indeed, the wizarding world does seem to enjoy its tales, he replied, inviting Draco to sit down. The two larger boys hovered uncertainly near the door, looking from Draco to Harry and back. Draco took a seat opposite Harry, his posture straight and his gaze direct. Yes, well, the Malfoys have always been in the know about the goings-on in our world. I suppose you're quite excited about starting at Hogwarts. Absolutely, Harry answered smoothly, his voice steady and composed. It's a new chapter, full of learning and opportunities. Hogwarts is a remarkable place, or so I've been told. Draco nodded, his initial bravado mellowing into a semblance of genuine interest. It is indeed. And, Potter, if you ever need guidance or advice, the Malfoys are well connected. We can be helpful allies. Harry's mind ticked away, analyzing Draco's words and demeanor. Nigel's voice chimed in subtly. Alliances offered before the journey even begins. A tad eager, wouldn't you say? Harry suppressed a smile at Nigel's comment, choosing instead to respond to Draco with tact. That's very kind of you, Malfoy. I'm sure your insights into Hogwarts will be most valuable. Draco seemed pleased with this response, a hint of pride returning to his features. Of course, Potter, you'll find that certain families hold significant influence at Hogwarts. It's always wise to align oneself appropriately. Harry nodded, his expression neutral yet friendly. I'll certainly keep that in mind. It's a complex world we're stepping into. The conversation continued, with Draco sharing tidbits about Hogwarts, the professors, and the various houses. Harry listened attentively, giving nothing away about his own extensive knowledge gained from Nigel and the technology system. He was careful to interject with questions and comments that portrayed curiosity without revealing his depth of understanding. Draco gradually relaxed, clearly believing he had made a favorable impression on Harry. Meanwhile, Harry's own assessment was quite different. He saw Draco as a product of his environment, a boy playing at politics and power without fully grasping the complexities of the world he inhabited. Eventually, Draco stood up, signaling the end of their conversation. Well, Potter, I should mingle with some of the others. But remember, my offer stands. The Malfoys can be powerful friends. Thank you, Malfoy. I appreciate the gesture, Harry replied, his tone gracious. Enjoy the rest of your journey. As Draco, followed by Crabbe and Goyle, left the compartment, Harry's gaze followed them thoughtfully. He turned his attention back to his book, but his mind was already weaving through the many layers of Hogwarts' social fabric. Nigel's voice, light but insightful, broke through Harry's thoughts. A rather interesting encounter, wouldn't you say? Young Malfoy seems to think he's playing chess, but he's barely grasping checkers. Harry chuckled softly, his eyes still on the book's pages. True, Nigel, but it's a long game, and we're just getting started. As Harry returned to his book, the door to his compartment slid open once more. A red-haired boy with a face full of freckles peeked in, his expression a mix of hopefulness and slight embarrassment. Can I come in? All the other compartments are full, he asked, his voice tinged with a nervous edge. Harry looked up, his eyes assessing the newcomer. The boy's manner was earnest, but there was something about his demeanor that struck Harry as slightly off. He turned inward, calling upon Nigel's expertise. Nigel, he's under a spell, right? He thought, seeking confirmation from his AI assistant. Nigel's voice, infused with a hint of dry amusement, responded in Harry's mind. Indeed, Master Harry, it seems our red-haired visitor is not entirely acting of his own volition. As Nigel spoke, a system message appeared before Harry's eyes, invisible to anyone else in the compartment. System message. Ron Weasley 11 under compelling spell. Objective. Make acquaintances with Harry Potter. Subliminal messaging. Promote Gryffindor House, express disdain for Slytherin House. Spell origin. Unknown. Note. Subject's awareness of the spell's influence, minimal. Harry's expression remained neutral as he digested this information, but internally he was alert and cautious. Come in, he said aloud, gesturing to the seat opposite him. Plenty of room here. Ron Weasley, looking visibly relieved, stepped into the compartment and sat down. He ran a hand through his unruly hair, giving Harry a friendly, if somewhat awkward, smile. Thanks, I'm Ron Weasley. Harry nodded. Harry Potter, he introduced himself, though he had a feeling Ron already knew who he was, well subconsciously at least. Ron's eyes widened like saucers as he took in the sight of Harry's famous lightning-shaped scar that could barely been seen. For a moment, he seemed lost in awe. It is real. You are really Harry Potter, he blurted out, his voice a mix of shock and fascination. Then, realizing his own abruptness, he quickly added, sorry. It's just, you're so famous. Harry, far from the shy boy he used to be, smiled amiably. It's all right, Sir Weasley. I've gotten used to it, he replied, his tone light and devoid of any annoyance. The Harry of old might have shied away from such attention, but he had grown, both in confidence and in his understanding of the wizarding world. Ron, looking slightly embarrassed, shifted in his seat. I mean, everyone's heard of you, but I didn't expect to actually meet you. It's a bit overwhelming, you know. Understandable, Harry acknowledged, his gaze thoughtful. He was keenly aware of the intrigue surrounding his identity in the wizarding community, a curiosity that he had learned to navigate with grace and poise. As they conversed, Harry couldn't help but notice Ron's slightly glazed expression, a telltale sign of the spell he was under. Nigel offered his observation. The complexities of the wizarding world. One can never simply have a normal train ride to school, can we? Harry chuckled inwardly at Nigel's comment, amused by the situation and the irony. Indeed, Nigel, but let's see where this leads, he thought back, keeping his outward demeanor calm and friendly. Ron, meanwhile, seemed to relax as they talked, his initial awe giving way to a more natural conversation. He spoke of his family, the Weasleys, and his excitement about finally attending Hogwarts. Harry listened intently, his mind working to peel back the layers of the spell influencing Ron's behavior. So, excited about being sorted into a house? Harry asked casually, steering the conversation towards Hogwarts traditions. Ron's face lit up. Oh, definitely, my whole family's been in Gryffindor. It's sort of a tradition. I hope I end up there too. Not Slytherin, though. Ron's tone shifted as he mentioned Slytherin, his voice tinged with distaste. All dark wizards came from there, he said with a hint of venom. Harry, unfazed, responded with a knowing smirk. That is not true, you know. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze piercing as he looked at Ron. Nigel chuckled in his mind at Harry's approach. Trying to break the spell with manipulation, Master Harry. He mused silently. Harry chose to ignore the remark, focusing instead on enlightening Ron. Egbert the Egregious, an evil wizard, hailed from Gryffindor, the house you're so proud of, he began. Emeric the Evil, who was even worse than Voldemort, although not as capable, was from Ravenclaw. Uric the Oddball came from Hufflepuff, and Hereward, known for his malevolence, was also from Ravenclaw. Loxias, another dark figure, hailed from Gryffindor, and Godala, a notorious wizard, was from Ravenclaw. Ron sat frozen, each name hitting him like a revelation. And do you know who was from Slytherin? Harry continued, his voice steady. Ron swallowed hard, a mix of curiosity and apprehension in his eyes. Who? He asked hesitantly. Harry's smirk deepened. Merlin himself, he revealed with a dramatic flair. Ron's shock was palpable. Can't be, he stammered, disbelief etched on his face. Harry pressed on, confident in his knowledge. But he is. Merlin was Slytherin's student. Ron's expression transformed from shock to contemplation. Harry watched with satisfaction, aware that his words were having the desired effect. Nigel's voice echoed in Harry's mind again, laced with a hint of approval. Well played, Master Harry. Shattering stereotypes with facts, a classic move. Really, Merlin was from Slytherin? Ron asked, his voice laced with doubt. Harry sighed, the reality of the situation sinking in. The boy across from him, Ron Weasley, had a deeply ingrained bias against Slytherin house, likely ingrained from childhood, filled with praise for Gryffindor and disdain for Slytherin. Dealing with such deeply rooted beliefs was a task Harry wasn't eager to undertake. His curiosity piqued about the origin of the spell cast on Ron, but as Ron continued to praise Gryffindor, it became evident that the spell's influence was as strong as ever. Ron's conversation shifted to the great wizards of Gryffindor, mentioning, and don't forget Dumbledore. The greatest wizard of all times. That's when it clicked for Harry. It must be him, he thought, a smirk playing on his lips. The headmaster wants to influence me into Gryffindor, but why? Harry, with a knowing grin, turned to Nigel, and asked, Nigel, characters make a name, and a name makes character, right? Nigel responded with an eager understanding, astute observation, Master Harry. The headmaster might have thought to influence your character by placing you into Gryffindor. If you spend 7 years among lions, you will act like one. Harry's smile widened. And if I spend 7 years among snakes, I may become a snake. I wonder why he wants me to be brave. He pondered, his mind swirling with possibilities. Nigel's voice, always a source of insight, offered a hypothesis. Perhaps he sees in you a quality that he believes will flourish best in Gryffindor. Or maybe it's about shaping your future path. After all, the house one is sorted into can have a profound impact on their wizarding journey. Harry nodded, contemplating Nigel's words. The idea of the headmaster manipulating his house placement intrigued him. It suggested a deeper game at play, one that Harry was now a part of. Meanwhile, Ron, oblivious to the silent conversation between Harry and Nigel, continued to extol the virtues of Gryffindor. It's the best house, you know. Brave at heart, daring, nerve, and chivalry. That's Gryffindor, he said with a sense of pride. He couldn't help but chuckle inwardly at Ron's passionate speech about Gryffindor. Sounds to me like a fool who would dive headfirst into danger without a second thought, Harry mused silently, his eyes dancing with amusement. The conversation with Ron was enlightening, yet it raised more questions than answers about Dumbledore's intentions. Why did the headmaster want him in Gryffindor? Harry had no desire to be a mere pawn in someone else's game. I am a player, not a piece on the chessboard, he thought firmly. He then thought, not only that, if the caster is Dumbledore, he wants me to be friends with Ron. I wonder why, he mused, but couldn't figure out why. As the train hummed into life and started to move, Harry returned to his book, leaving Ron to being bored to death. Obviously not a reader, Nigel commented, his voice echoing in Harry's mind with a hint of amusement. Doesn't look like the type, Harry answered internally, his focus returning to the pages before him. Despite Ron's amiable nature, Harry had decided not to pursue a friendship with him. He couldn't see Dumbledore's intention in orchestrating this relationship, and until then, he wouldn't blindly follow the script laid out for him. Overconfidence was a hamartia that had caused the downfall of many mighty figures, and Harry was wary of falling into that trap. Despite his increasing mental prowess, Harry reminded himself that he was still an 11-year-old boy, very new to the intricate game of wizarding politics. Dumbledore, on the other hand, was a figure with at least a century's worth of experience, having fought against 2 Dark Lords and vanquished one with his own hands. Underestimating such a formidable wizard would be a grave mistake. As the train journeyed through the scenic landscapes, Harry's thoughts wandered to the challenges and mysteries that awaited him at Hogwarts. Master Harry, remember that every chessboard has its pawns and knights, but also a player moving the pieces, Nigel advised, his voice a blend of wisdom and subtle warning. Harry nodded slightly, acknowledging Nigel's counsel. I intend to be a player, not a piece, he resolved once more, his eyes reflecting determination. The idea of being manipulated by Dumbledore or anyone else was not something Harry would entertain. He was determined to carve his own destiny, using his knowledge, skills, and the support of Nigel, his virtual mentor. The train ride was a blend of quiet reading and introspective planning for Harry. While other students roamed the corridors, laughing and chatting, Harry remained in his compartment, immersed in his book and his thoughts. He was not antisocial, but he understood the importance of choosing allies wisely, especially in a world as complex as the one he was entering. Harry raised his head, observing Ron Weasley sitting across from him after some time. The red-haired boy looked decidedly bored, his eyes aimlessly wandering the window's passing scenery. Harry, sensing an opportunity to gather information, placed a bookmark in his book, The Little Prince, and turned his full attention to Ron. So, do you know any spell? He asked casually, his tone laced with curiosity. Ron perked up at the question, eager to share. Well, yeah, a few. My brothers showed me some stuff. Fred and George are always messing around with spells, he said with a hint of pride. Harry noted Ron's response with interest. The information about Ron's family could be valuable. With 3 brothers currently at Hogwarts and a sister who would soon join, Ron's insights could offer a unique perspective on the school's dynamics. While Harry had no intention of choosing his friends solely for benefit, he was aware of the strategic importance of connections. Ron, with his direct link to the Weasley family, and Draco Malfoy, with his family's political influence, represented potential pawns in the complex game of wizarding politics. As Harry contemplated his approach, he pondered the possibility of being sorted into Slytherin. What would Ron's reaction be if I were sorted into Slytherin? He wondered, a sly smirk playing on his lips. He decided to test the waters, curious about Ron's stance on the house often maligned for its association with dark wizards. Before Ron could delve deeper into his limited spell knowledge, a lady with a snack trolley passed by their compartment. "Anything off the trolley, dears?" she asked cheerfully. Harry observed Ron's reaction closely. The boy hesitantly pulled out a poorly wrapped sandwich from his bag and declined the offer. Harry's keen eye didn't miss the details: the sandwich's unappealing appearance, Ron's slightly embarrassed refusal, and the longing glance he cast at the trolley's treats. It was evident to Harry that the Weasleys, despite their noble bloodline, faced financial constraints. With a subtle movement, Harry reached for his pocket, extracting a few galleons. Addressing the trolley lady, he said with a genuine smile, "Bit of everything, please." His gesture was both generous and tactical, aiming to put Ron at ease and perhaps loosen his tongue. As the lady began piling an assortment of sweets and snacks onto their compartment, Ron's eyes widened in amazement. Chocolate frogs, Bertie Bott's every flavor beans, cauldron cakes, pumpkin pasties, and more were spread out before them. Ron's expression, a mix of surprise and gratitude, did not escape Harry's notice. "Go on, help yourself," Harry encouraged, nudging a chocolate frog towards Ron. The boy hesitated for a moment before eagerly grabbing the treat, his eyes lighting up with delight. As Ron indulged in the snacks, Harry casually steered the conversation back to Hogwarts. "So, your brothers are in Gryffindor, right? What can you tell me about the other houses?" Harry asked, feigning ignorance. Ron, his mouth full of cauldron cake, nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, all Weasleys end up in Gryffindor. It's the best house, really. Brave, noble, and all that. Slytherin's the worst. Full of dark wizards and such," he said, echoing the sentiment Harry had heard earlier. Harry nodded thoughtfully, his mind analyzing Ron's words. It's crucial to understand these house stereotypes firsthand. He knew that every piece of information, every perspective, could prove useful in navigating the complexities of Hogwarts. Sadly, the redhead repeated same sentences over and over again. Harry, his curiosity piqued, casually probed Ron further. "What do you think of me, Sir Weasley? Do you think I am evil?" he asked, his tone light yet probing. Ron, his mouth still full of chocolate, shook his head vigorously, bits of melted chocolate on his fingers. "No way, you're Harry Potter. You know who's Vanquisher. You can't be bad," he replied with conviction. "But what if I end up in Slytherin?" Harry pressed, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Ron, still chewing, vehemently shook his head. "Impossible, you're Harry Potter," he repeated, as if that settled the matter. "Slytherin's for the likes of, well, not you." Harry's smirk deepened. How naive, he thought, amused. Out loud, he asked, "Do you know how the sorting process works?" Ron, now swallowing his mouthful, replied, "My brothers won't tell me. Fred and George joked about fighting a dragon, but that's got to be a lie, right?" "Who knows? I've heard it's quite random," Harry said with a shrug. "So, if I were sorted into Slytherin, would that make me evil?" Ron hesitated, his expression uncertain. I don't know," he finally admitted. "Interesting," Harry mused internally. He decided to drop the topic for now, focusing instead on the snacks before them. Then Ron remembered the question Harry asked earlier. "Oh, right, I was about to show you my spell." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old wand, its appearance worn and clearly handed down through generations. Harry observed the wand, noting its aged condition, which mirrored Ron's second-hand clothes. As Ron prepared to cast the spell, he brought out a rat from his sleeve. Harry's eyebrows furrowed in suspicion at the sight of the rat. Something is off, he thought, turning to Nigel. "That rat, Nigel, it's not just an ordinary rat, is it?" Before he could utilize the observe function on the rat, their compartment door slid open, and a young girl with bushy hair stepped in. She looked around 11 years old, her eyes scanning the compartment curiously. "Have you seen any toad? A boy named Neville lost his," she inquired earnestly. Ron, looking momentarily distracted from his spellcasting, replied with a simple no. The girl's gaze then shifted to Ron's wand. "Oh, are you doing magic? Let's see it then," she said, her tone a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Ron cleared his throat, a hint of nervousness in his eyes. He raised his wand and chanted, "Sunshine, daisies, buttermellow, turn this stupid, fat rat yellow." He waved his wand, but to no effect. The rat remained its usual color, unaltered by the spell. Harry, still intrigued by the rat, used his observe function, a system message appearing before his eyes. System message. Scabbers the rat, animagus detection warning, possible human in animagus form. Caution advised, name, unknown, history, concealed, magical signature, altered. Nigel chimed in Harry's mind, his tone reflective of the situation's absurdity. "Shall I use system points to unveil the rat's true identity, Master Harry?" he inquired, his voice carrying a subtle hint of amusement at the spectacle. Harry inwardly shook his head, deciding against it for the moment. "Not yet, Nigel, let's not rush into unmasking our furry friend. I'll investigate further later," he thought, his mind already formulating a strategy to uncover the rat's secrets. The girl spoke up at this moment, her voice tinged with a blend of curiosity and critique. "Are you sure that's a real spell? Well, it's not very good, is it? I've only tried simple ones myself, but they have all worked for me," she said, her tone suggesting a mix of genuine intrigue and a desire to showcase her own prowess. She sat down across Harry, and her eyes, filled with a mixture of curiosity and purpose, fixed upon him. As she pointed her wand directly at Harry's face, his instinctive reaction was swift. He squinted and reached out, his hand firmly gripping her wrist to turn the wand away. "You shouldn't point your wand at people," he said in a low, measured voice. His grip was firm but not aggressive, reflecting his caution rather than hostility. The girl, Hermione Granger, winced slightly under the pressure of Harry's grip, her face contorting in a mix of discomfort and surprise. "I just wanted to fix your glasses," she explained, her voice tinged with a hint of defensiveness. Harry released her wrist, his expression unyielding. "My glasses are unbreakable, and work just fine. We don't know each other, and you shouldn't point your wand at people you don't know," he reiterated, his tone colder now, underscoring the seriousness of his statement. Hermione pulled back, her cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. She seemed unaccustomed to being reprimanded in such a manner. "Are you all right, Harry?" Ron asked, his mouth full. Harry, his gaze still fixed on Hermione, activated his observe function. The system message that appeared confirmed his suspicions. System message. Hermione Granger 11 under compelling spell. Objective. Befriend Harry Potter and influence his academic pursuits. Spell origin. Unknown. Note. Subject's awareness of the spell's influence, minimal. Harry's eyes narrowed as he processed this information. Another one under a spell, he thought, a tinge of annoyance creeping into his mind. "Dumbledore, what are you trying to do with me?" He internally questioned the headmaster's motives, his distrust growing. Hermione, seemingly oblivious to Harry's internal musings, attempted to regain her composure. "I've read about you, you know," she started, trying to shift the conversation. "In Modern Magical History, and The Rise and Fall of the Dark Arts, and Great Wizarding Events of the 20th Century." Harry listened, his expression neutral. He was aware of the books she mentioned, having read them himself. The mention of his own story in such books was no surprise, but the content couldn't be more off. "Quite the reader, aren't we?" Nigel's voice echoed in Harry's mind, a subtle note of amusement underlying his words. "A refreshing change from our snack-loving friend here." Harry couldn't help but internally smile at Nigel's observation. He glanced at Ron, who was still engrossed in the sweets, seemingly oblivious to the deeper conversation unfolding. Hermione decided to forget her slight. She then turned to Ron, who was still munching on the snacks. "And you are?" she asked, her tone polite yet marked with a hint of impatience. Ron, his mouth full, mumbled a response, "Ron Weasley." Hermione's expression shifted to a scowl, clearly unimpressed with Ron's lack of manners. "A pleasure," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. She then stood up, addressing them both. "You two better change into robes. I expect we'll be arriving soon." As she made to leave, Harry, noticing her adherence to the compelling spells directive, called out, "You should ask a prefect." Hermione turned back, a look of confusion crossing her face. "What?" she inquired, her brows furrowed. Harry, with a knowing smirk, added, "The toad. Ask a prefect. They can help." For a moment, Hermione's eyes glazed over, a clear indication of the spell's influence. She nodded, albeit mechanically. "Right, I will just do that," she agreed, before exiting the compartment. Harry watched her leave, his mind analyzing the situation. "So, she's under a compelling spell to befriend me and influence my academic path," he thought. "Dumbledore's machinations, perhaps." Nigel's voice commented on the encounter. "Seems like our dear headmaster is quite interested in scripting your Hogwarts experience, Master Harry. How do you plan to navigate this woven web?" Harry pondered Nigel's words. "I'll play along for now, but on my terms," he decided, his gaze shifting to the scenery outside the window. "It's clear Dumbledore has a plan for me, but I won't be led blindly." Ron, who had been quietly observing the exchange, finally spoke up. "She's a bit much, isn't she?" Harry chuckled, his attention now back on Ron. "She's certainly dedicated," he replied diplomatically. "But let's focus on our arrival. We should change into our robes." As they prepared to change, Harry's thoughts lingered on Hermione's behavior. Her actions, clearly dictated by the spell, indicated a larger plan at play, one that involved not just Ron but Hermione as well. Why these two, he wondered. Nigel's voice broke through his contemplation. It seems, Master Harry, that your journey at Hogwarts will be far from ordinary. Allies and obstacles, all part of a grander scheme. Harry nodded, acknowledging the insight Nigel provided. With a subtle gesture, his hand moving deftly, he took out his wand. A flick of his wrist, and the window of the compartment turned pitch black. Calivaria. The magic was swift but effective, a testament to Harry's growing prowess in magic. Ron's reaction was immediate and filled with wonder. "Blimey, how did you do that?" he exclaimed, his eyes and mouth agape in awe. Harry merely shrugged in response. He saw no point in explaining the intricacies of his magical abilities to Ron, especially considering the boy's earlier attempt at spellcasting with a chant as simple as sunshine and daisies. It was clear to Harry that Ron, while earnest, had much to learn about the true nature of magic. Quietly, Harry took out his Hogwarts robe. The fabric was smooth and pristine, a stark contrast to Ron's worn and faded attire. As he dressed, his movements were graceful and efficient, each motion practiced and precise. He had learned long ago the importance of being prepared, a lesson that life with the Dursleys had ingrained in him. Now, as he readied himself for his arrival at Hogwarts, he felt a sense of anticipation mixed with caution. Nigel, observing Harry's actions, remarked in his mind, "A new beginning, Master Harry. Hogwarts awaits. I do hope the food is to your liking." Harry couldn't help but smile inwardly at Nigel's comment. The AI's observations, though often laced with humor, also carried a hint of genuine concern. Ron, still looking at the darkened window, muttered, "Wish I could do that." His voice carried a mix of envy and admiration. Harry glanced at Ron, noticing the hint of longing in his eyes. It was clear that Ron yearned for more than he had. Must have grown up envying others, he mused. It was already evening when the train arrived at Hogwarts. Amidst the bustling crowd of students, Harry heard a booming voice calling out, "First years. Come on out, don't be shy, first years, come, air." The source of the voice was a giant of a man, holding a lantern that cast a warm glow in the dimming light. Harry observed the man discreetly, activating his observe function silently. System message. Rubeus Hagrid, half-giant, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts. Friendly and fond of magical creatures. No malicious intent detected. As Hagrid called out again, "Come, this way to the boats." "Follow me." Harry followed the crowd, his eyes scanning his surroundings with keen interest. Approaching the lake, Hagrid's voice boomed once more, "No more than 4 to a boat." Harry decided to distance himself from Ron, opting instead for an empty boat at the side. As he settled into the boat, 2 girls and a boy joined him. Harry's observe function activated automatically as he scrutinized his new companions. System message. Tracy Davis. Open-minded and curious. No compelling spells detected. System message. Daphne Greengrass. Strong-willed and ambitious. No compelling spells detected. System message. Neville Longbottom. Under long-term confined a spell. Origin of spell, unknown. Note. Spell affects memory and decision-making. Subject's awareness of the spell's influence, minimal. Harry frowned as he recognized the name. Nigel, isn't he the other baby in the prophecy? Nigel answered with a mental nod, "He is. He could be in your place right now, Master Harry." The boy who lived. Instead, both his parents were crazed by endless torture. Growing up with his grandmother and Euchel, in constant comparison to his father, and reprimand made him weak-willed and insecure. "I don't know the source that spell is, though. Most intriguing." Harry nodded in understanding. Neville was someone he wanted to meet, hopefully becoming friends with him. Alice Longbottom, Neville's mother, was his godmother, and Neville was like a brother in fate. He decided to break the ice, introducing himself with a touch of formality. "Hello. I am Harry Potter, heir of the most ancient and most noble House Potter." His tone was composed, yet there was an underlying warmth in his voice. Extending a hand, he gently took Daphne and Tracy's hands in turn, planting a soft, courteous kiss on each, a gesture of refined manners he had learned through Nigel's guidance. Then, turning towards Neville, who looked a bit intimidated by the formality, he offered his hand with a friendly smile. Daphne Greengrass, a girl with an air of confidence, raised an eyebrow at Harry's introduction but returned the greeting with equal politeness. Daphne Greengrass, heiress of the most ancient and most noble House Greengrass. "Pleased to meet you, Heir Potter," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of curiosity. Her demeanor suggested she was well versed in the customs of the wizarding world's elite. Tracy Davis, on the other hand, seemed pleasantly surprised by Harry's gesture and shocked by his identity. "Tracy Davis," she said, her voice light and friendly. "It's nice to meet you, Sir Potter." Neville Longbottom, a bit flustered by the formal introduction, shook Harry's hand. I'm Neville Longbottom, heir of the most ancient and most noble House Longbottom," he stammered, his voice betraying a mix of nervousness and awe. Harry, sensing Neville's discomfort, quickly shifted to a more relaxed posture, aiming to put him at ease. "It's a pleasure to meet all of you. Excited about studying in here?" he inquired, his voice carrying a genuine interest. Daphne nodded. Yes, though I've heard a lot about it from my family. It's quite the experience, I gather. Tracy chimed in with enthusiasm. I'm really excited. I can't wait to start learning actual magic. My folks at home only taught me the basics. Neville, still appearing a bit overwhelmed, added, yeah, my gran says it's a big responsibility. Harry listened attentively, his mind noting the different backgrounds and perspectives each of his companions brought to the conversation. He was particularly intrigued by Neville's mention of his grandmother, remembering Nigel's briefing about his family's tragic history. Nigel's voice commented with a hint of intrigue. Quite the diverse group you've found yourself with, Master Harry. Ms. Greengrass comes from an old pure-blood family, known for their pride and ambition. Ms. Davis, on the other hand, seems more grounded, perhaps from a less traditional background. And Mr. Longbottom, well, his story is a rather tragic one. Harry nodded slightly, acknowledging Nigel's analysis. He knew that understanding his peers' backgrounds and motivations would be crucial in navigating Hogwarts' complex social landscape. As the boat glided smoothly across the Black Lake, the conversation among the 4 first years continued, with Harry skillfully steering it towards lighter topics. He asked about their interests and hobbies, and in turn, shared a few of his own. Neville, gradually warming up to the group, shared his love for plants, mentioning his interest in herbology. Daphne spoke of her fascination with the charms and potions, while Tracy expressed a keen interest in charms and enchantments. Harry, listening intently, found himself appreciating the company of his new acquaintances. They were all different, yet there was a sense of mutual respect and curiosity among them. As Hogwarts Castle came into view, its towering spires and grand architecture illuminated by the moonlight, a sense of awe filled the boat. Harry's eyes widened at the sight, feeling a surge of excitement at the prospect of exploring the castle's ancient halls and secrets. Nigel's voice echoed in his mind, Hogwarts. A place of endless mysteries and opportunities. It will be fascinating to see how you make your mark here, Master Harry. Harry smiled inwardly, his gaze still fixed on the majestic castle. Indeed, Nigel, Hogwarts is more than a school, it's the beginning of a new chapter. Nigel's voice resonated in Harry's mind as they glided across the Black Lake. Fun fact, Master Harry. This lake is the same one the 4 founders traveled when they first found this land. The tradition for first years to pass through it is to see through the founders' eyes. Harry appreciated the trivia, feeling a deeper connection to the history and tradition of the school he was about to enter. As they neared the castle, Harry's attention was abruptly drawn to a large tentacle briefly breaking the surface of the lake. His reaction was swift. He activated his observe function to identify the creature. Tracy, noticing the tentacle as well, said, I heard from my mother that this is the giant squid. It helps students if they fall into the lake. System message. Kraken, mythological creature, not just a giant squid. Capable of incredible feats of strength and known for its protective nature towards Hogwarts students. Magical properties. Highly intelligent and sensitive to magical energies. Harry's eyes widened slightly at the revelation. The creature in the lake wasn't just a mere squid, but a kraken, a being of myth and legend. He was intrigued by its presence in the lake and its protective nature towards the students. The thought that such a magnificent creature resided in the depths of Hogwarts Lake added another layer of mystery to the already enchanting school. Nigel offered a humorous observation, quite the guardian for a school, wouldn't you agree? I suppose it beats having a grumpy old caretaker with a cat. As the boat approached the landing, Harry turned his attention back to the castle. Its towering spires and the vastness of its structure were illuminated under the moonlight, casting an awe-inspiring image. He felt a sense of anticipation, wondering what mysteries and challenges lay within those ancient walls. Daphne, her gaze fixed on the castle, spoke with a hint of reverence. It's even more impressive than what I imagined. Neville, still a bit shy but clearly awestruck, added, it's huge. I can't believe we're going to live here. Tracy, equally mesmerized, nodded in agreement. It's like something out of a storybook. Harry, observing their reactions, felt a sense of camaraderie building among them. Despite their different backgrounds, the shared experience of arriving at Hogwarts seemed to be a unifying moment. As they disembarked from the boats, Harry noticed Hagrid guiding the first-year students towards a large set of doors. The giant man's booming voice echoed across the grounds, right this way, everyone. Mind your step. The group of first years followed Hagrid, their eyes wide with excitement and nervousness. Harry walked alongside his new acquaintances, his mind alert and observant. As Hagrid stepped aside, an old witch with a serious demeanor approached the group of first-year students. I will take it from here, Hagrid. Thank you, she said. The witch then turned to the students, her voice firm yet welcoming. Welcome to Hogwarts. Now, in a few moments, you will pass through these doors and join your classmates. But before you can take your seats, you must be sorted into your houses. They are Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. While you are here, your house will be like your family. Your triumphs will earn you house points, and any rule breaking will cost you points. At the end of the year, the house with the most points is awarded the House Cup. The sorting ceremony will begin momentarily. With that, she turned and walked away. As she departed, the crowd parted, and Draco Malfoy approached Harry Potter. He greeted with a nod. His eyes then shifted to Neville, and a smirk formed on his face as he looked down at him. Before Draco could utter a disparaging remark, Harry intervened. Malfoy, meet my friend, Neville Longbottom, heir of the most ancient and most noble House Longbottom. Draco's gaze flickered back to Harry, meeting his intense stare. After a moment, he nodded respectfully. An honor, heir Longbottom, he said, his tone surprisingly genuine. Neville greeted him back, though still a bit taken aback by the sudden attention. I will see you later then, Potter, Draco said, before turning and walking away. Harry watched him go, his thoughts on the complex dynamics of the wizarding world's elite. Unlike Ron and Draco, whom he saw more as chess pieces in the grand game of Hogwarts, Harry genuinely wanted to befriend Neville. Their shared fate, both being the children mentioned in the prophecy, forged a bond that Harry felt was worth nurturing. As Professor McGonagall returned with a list of names, she instructed the first-year students to follow her. Seizing this opportunity, Harry discreetly activated his observe function on her, curious to learn more about the stern-faced witch leading them. System message. Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress, Head of Gryffindor House. Skilled in transfiguration, strong sense of justice and fairness. Big fan of Quidditch, no malicious intent detected. Entering the Grand Hall, Harry was immediately captivated by its grandeur. Towering ceilings enchanted to mimic the night sky stretched above, creating an illusion of dining under the stars. The floating candles added a mystical ambiance, casting a warm glow over the 4 long house tables filled with students. The hall was alive with the buzz of conversation and the clatter of cutlery, a symphony of school life in motion. From somewhere behind him, Hermione's voice drifted over, educating a few students. It's not real, the ceiling. It's just bewitched to look like the night sky. I read about it in Hogwarts, a history. Approaching the front of the hall, McGonagall stopped before a stool with an old, patched hat. Harry's gaze then shifted to the staff table, observing the professors and other staff members. His attention was drawn to 2 individuals in particular, who were also looking in his direction. One was a man with greasy hair and a sullen expression, resembling a human bat. The other, an old man with a long white beard, had eyes that twinkled with an unreadable emotion. A nice trick to make people look into his eyes, Harry thought. Nigel's voice commented in Harry's mind. You know what they say, Master Harry. Eyes are the mirror to the soul, or in this case, perhaps memories. Harry smiled inwardly as he used the observe function on both individuals. He felt their attempts to probe his mind with legilimency a moment ago, but thanks to the system, his memories remained shielded. System message. Severus Snape, Potions Master, Head of Slytherin House. A complicated past with deep layers. Skilled in potions and legilimency. Resentments and secrets hidden beneath a cold exterior. Malicious intent. Detected soft resentment. System message. Albus Dumbledore, Headmaster of Hogwarts. One of the most powerful wizards alive. Known for his fight against dark forces. A strategist with a penchant for manipulation. Eyes capable of legilimency, though unsuccessful on you. Malicious intent. Detected soft intent of malice for the necessity of greater good. As the Sorting Hat's song filled the Great Hall, a ripple of anticipation ran through the first-year students. Harry Potter, standing amidst his peers, listened intently. The Hat's message about the qualities of each house resonated with him, each verse painting a vivid picture of the values and traits Hogwarts valued. Harry, deep in thought, turned to Nigel. This proves it, Nigel. Dumbledore is not the simple, good old man many believe him to be. He's a manipulative mastermind. He might mean well, but that's the most dangerous kind. At least Dark Lords are open about their intentions. Nigel's voice resonated in Harry's mind. Indeed, Master Harry, the line between a savior and a manipulator can be as thin as a wand's core. It's all about perspective and, unfortunately, manipulation often wears the mask of benevolence. At the staff table, both Severus Snape and Albus Dumbledore were visibly taken aback. They had attempted to probe Harry's mind with legilimency but had failed to breach his mental defenses. Dumbledore surmised that Lily's protective spell, which had saved Harry from Voldemort, was still shielding him. Snape, however, believed that Harry was a natural genius in legilimency and occlumency, a talent possibly inherited from his mother, Lily. Yet, Snape's disdain for the boy, who bore such a striking resemblance to James Potter, lingered. Harry, aware of their scrutiny, ignored the duo, focusing instead on the Sorting Hat. Using his observe function, he studied the ancient artifact. System message. The Sorting Hat, an enchanted hat with the ability to sort students into Hogwarts houses based on their personality traits and values. Created by the founders of Hogwarts, possesses a high level of intelligence and insight. McGonagall then addressed the students, when your name is called, please step forward. I will place the Sorting Hat on your head, and you will be sorted into your respective house. She then proceeded to call the first name, Hannah Abbott. As Professor McGonagall began the sorting ceremony, the Great Hall fell into a hushed anticipation. Each student's name called seemed to echo through the vast chamber, marking the start of their journey at Hogwarts. Hannah Abbott walked nervously to the stool and sat down. The sorting hat barely touched her head before it shouted, Hufflepuff. Hannah's face lit up with a relieved smile as she joined her new housemates at the Hufflepuff table, welcomed with applause. Terry Boot was next, his steps measured and calm. The hat deliberated for a moment before declaring, Ravenclaw. Terry, with a composed nod, made his way to the Ravenclaw table, where he was greeted warmly. Lavender Brown's turn came, and she practically bounced to the stool. The hat's decision was swift. Gryffindor, it announced. Lavender beamed, rushing to join her fellow Gryffindors amidst loud cheers. Justin Finch Fletchley, with his easy smile, was also sorted into Hufflepuff. He looked genuinely pleased, joining his housemates with a friendly wave. Seamus Finnegan's sorting was a lively affair. The hat seemed to enjoy teasing him a bit before finally declaring, Gryffindor. Seamus's grin was infectious as he made his way to his new house. Hermione Granger, her face set with determination, walked up. The hat seemed to ponder longer with her. Gryffindor, it finally announced. Hermione's relief was palpable as she joined the Gryffindor table, her face flushed with excitement. Gregory Goyle, looking somewhat bewildered, was quickly sorted into Slytherin. He lumbered over to his house's table, where he was received with muted nods. Daphne Greengrass approached with an air of confidence. The hat announced Slytherin, almost immediately, and Daphne, without a hint of surprise, elegantly walked to her house table. Neville Longbottom's sorting was met with a bit of tension. The hat took its time, but eventually, Gryffindor rang out. Neville, looking relieved and slightly surprised, joined Gryffindor amidst encouraging applause. Megan Jones, a girl with a bright smile, was sorted into Hufflepuff. She skipped happily to her table, greeted by cheers. Ernest Macmillan, serious and upright, was also sorted into Hufflepuff. He nodded respectfully to Professor McGonagall before joining his house. Draco Malfoy strode confidently to the stool, his demeanor unshaken. The hat barely grazed his head before shouting, Slytherin. Draco smirked slightly, taking his place among his housemates with an air of entitlement. Theodore Nott, quiet and observant, was next. Slytherin, the hat declared. Theodore gave a subtle nod, his expression unreadable, and joined his house. Parvati Patil, chattering nervously until the last moment, was sorted into Gryffindor. Her nervousness turned into excitement as she took her seat at the Gryffindor table. Padma Patil, in contrast to her sister, walked up calmly. Ravenclaw, the hat announced. Padma smiled and joined her housemates with a serene expression. When McGonagall called the next name, Harry Potter, an expectant hush fell over the Great Hall. All eyes turned to the confident 11-year-old who walked without a hint of hesitation and sat on the stool. The chatter ceased. The atmosphere was thick with curiosity, students stretching their necks to see him. Harry, maintaining his composure, looked ahead, consciously averting any direct gaze. The hat was gently placed on his head, and Harry felt it sift through memories, those that Nigel allowed it to access. Most intriguing. Where to put you, Mr. Potter? The hat pondered aloud, its voice resonating in Harry's mind. Harry, playing along with the moment, inquired, where do you think is the best? The hat, its voice reflecting a hint of amusement, replied, most definitely Slytherin. Ambitious, cunning, and dangerous. My, such a sharp mind you have. Thanks, you are not so bad yourself, Harry smirked internally, engaging in a light-hearted exchange with the hat. But you are also brave and loyal. You love reading and science. You fit all the houses, the hat observed, seeming to weigh its options. Harry, with a playful tone, joked, how about you make me the new headmaster? The hat chuckled at his audacity. Would be better, believe me, but I don't have the permission. Well, where to put you? It murmured in contemplation. Slytherin, please, Harry stated firmly. Are you sure? The hat queried, seeking confirmation. Harry's smirk deepened. Don't you want to see the old man's face when you put me there? The hat laughed, a sound unheard by anyone else, before announcing loudly, Slytherin. The Great Hall erupted into a pandemonium of reactions. The Slytherin table burst into cheers and applause, welcoming their newest member with a mix of surprise and excitement. The other tables, particularly Gryffindor, were abuzz with whispers and shocked expressions. Dumbledore's face, visible from the staff table, was a picture of surprise and intrigue, his twinkling eyes momentarily losing their sparkle. Snape, on the other hand, appeared genuinely taken aback, his usual scowl deepening. Harry rose from the stool, his face betraying none of his internal amusement. As he made his way to the Slytherin table, he felt the weight of many eyes upon him, each student trying to decipher the mystery of the boy who lived, being sorted into Slytherin. As Harry walked towards the Slytherin table, his clothes subtly adjusted themselves, adopting a green and silver theme that seamlessly blended with the house colors. The fabric shifted and shimmered, a visual testament to the magic that permeated Hogwarts. Nigel quipped, "Gotta say, it matches with your eyes. Imagine a yellow theme of Hufflepuff." Harry chuckled inwardly, amused by the mental image Nigel put in his mind, even as he took his seat at his new house table. The hall was still buzzing with whispers and murmurs as Professor McGonagall recovered from her momentary stupor and called the next name, Ron Weasley. Ron, looking visibly shocked and somewhat lost, made his way to the stool. The Sorting Hat took only a moment before announcing Gryffindor. Ron, relieved, joined his house table, still casting occasional bewildered glances at Harry. Following Ron, Blaise Zabini was sorted into Slytherin, his stride confident as he joined his new housemates. With the sorting ceremony concluded, the Great Hall settled into a temporary silence. Dumbledore stood up, his face neutral, but there was a subtle shift in his usually unflappable demeanor. "Welcome," he began, his voice resonating throughout the hall. "Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our banquet, I would like to say a few words. And here they are. Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak." With a whimsical smile, he sat down, and magically, food appeared on all the tables. Harry, amused by Dumbledore's eccentricity, asked in his mind, acting demented. He found the old man's act entertaining, knowing that despite his age, Dumbledore was as sharp as a basilisk's tooth. Nigel's voice resonated with a chuckle. "Those are probably the names of house elves that use magic to deliver the food from kitchens." Harry nodded in agreement. "That makes sense." As Harry started to eat, he noticed several students trying to engage him in conversation. His newfound statuses, the boy who lived in Slytherin, had evidently piqued the curiosity of many. Fortunately, he sat next to Daphne Greengrass, who was seated next to Tracy Davis, leaving his right side empty. Across from him sat Theodore Nott and Blaise Zabini, with Draco Malfoy on Nott's left. The Slytherin table was a blend of traditional pure-blood families and ambitious newcomers. Harry observed their interactions, noting the subtle dynamics of power and influence at play. Daphne and Tracy, both coming from established families, conversed with an air of confidence. In contrast, Theodore and Blaise, though less outspoken, exuded a quiet strength that spoke of their upbringing in the complex world of wizarding politics. Draco Malfoy, in particular, seemed intrigued by Harry's presence in Slytherin. His earlier confident demeanor had given way to a more contemplative one. "Quite the stir you've caused, Potter," he remarked, his tone a mix of curiosity and respect. Harry, taking a bite of his roast chicken, replied nonchalantly, "It seems so, Malfoy. But then, Hogwarts is full of surprises, isn't it?" The meal progressed with various students engaging Harry in conversation, each trying to gauge his personality and intentions. Harry responded with a mix of politeness and reserve, careful not to reveal too much about himself. He was aware that every word he said could be analyzed and interpreted in multiple ways. As the feast neared its end, Dumbledore stood up again, this time to announce the upcoming school year's events and remind the students of the rules. Harry's gaze shifted from the lively interactions at the Slytherin table to the staff table, where the Hogwarts teachers sat. Among them, a professor wearing a turban caught his attention. The man seemed to be fumbling with his bag, his movements slightly awkward. From his vantage point, Harry had a clear view of the staff table and this particular professor. Suddenly, a system message flashed before Harry's eyes, momentarily pulling his focus from the scene. A powerful legilimency detected. The probe failed. Harry's eyes narrowed. He turned his attention back to the turbaned professor, activating his observe function to gather more information. System message. Quirinus Quirrell, defense against the dark arts professor. Nervous disposition. Signs of magical interference present. Warning. Possible external influence detected. Legilimency source. Unknown. Nigel's voice chimed in Harry's mind, its tone a blend of curiosity and caution. "Quite the mystery we have here, Master Harry. A defense against the dark arts professor with more secrets than a sphinx's riddle." Harry's lips twitched in amusement at Nigel's analogy. "Indeed, Nigel, but secrets have a way of coming to light, especially in a place like Hogwarts." His eyes remained fixed on Professor Quirrell, contemplating the potential dangers hidden beneath the man's timid exterior. As the final course of desserts vanished from the tables, leaving behind a satisfied murmur among the students, Professor Dumbledore rose once more, capturing the attention of the entire Great Hall. The hall, buzzing with the energy of a fresh start at Hogwarts, quieted down, every eye and ear turning towards the esteemed headmaster. "Ahem," Dumbledore began, his voice resonating with a warmth that seemed to reach every corner of the vast room. "Just a few more words now that we are all fed and watered." His eyes, twinkling as they often did, swept across the hall, pausing momentarily on the faces of eager first years and returning students alike. First years should note that the forest on the grounds is forbidden to all pupils. Dumbledore's voice took on a slightly stern tone, though his eyes retained their gentle sparkle. "And a few of our older students would do well to remember that as well." His gaze flickered towards the Weasley twins, whose expressions of feigned innocence only seemed to amuse the headmaster further. Harry, seated at the Slytherin table, couldn't help but observe the subtle interplay of expressions around the hall. Ah, the Forbidden Forest, a treasure trove of the dangerous and unknown, Nigel's voice echoed in Harry's mind, tinged with a hint of intrigue. Do be careful should you ever find yourself near its edges, Master Harry. Harry nodded slightly, acknowledging Nigel's words. His eyes returned to Dumbledore, who was now addressing another important matter. I have also been asked by Mr. Filch, the caretaker, to remind you all that no magic should be used between classes in the corridors. Dumbledore's words were clear, but Harry saw no point in such a rule. Students weren't allowed to use magic outside of Hogwarts, and now they weren't allowed to use it in corridors. Where could they even test their spells? Quidditch trials will be held in the second week of the term. Anyone interested in playing for their house teams should contact Madam Hooch. Dumbledore's announcement sparked a wave of excited whispers among the students. Harry, though curious about the famous wizarding sport, remained contemplative. His interest lied more in academics and exploring secrets of Hogwarts and magic. Quidditch, the sport where brooms are more than cleaning tools, Nigel added. Perhaps you should give it a go, Master Harry. After all, your balance on a broom is quite commendable. Harry considered the idea briefly. His skills in broom riding were indeed exceptional, but he decided to reserve any decision on participating in Quidditch until he had a better grasp of his priorities and schedule at Hogwarts. He had so much to test and explore. Dumbledore's final announcement, however, captured everyone's full attention. And finally, I must tell you that this year, the third-floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. The statement, delivered with a serious tone uncharacteristic of the usually jovial headmaster, sent a ripple of both excitement and apprehension throughout the hall. Harry's eyes narrowed thoughtfully, while Nigel's voice sounded in his mind. A painfully deadly warning, quite literal in its intent. The third-floor corridor seems to be this year's touch of mystery. Caution is advised, but curiosity, I presume, will not be far behind. Indeed, Nigel, Harry thought in response. A corridor forbidden under threat of death. It's almost like an open invitation for the more daring, or foolish, among us. I am sure dear old headmaster could have used a spell to keep students away instead of pointing attention to there. As Dumbledore finished his speech and the hall erupted into discussions and speculations about the forbidden corridor, Harry's mind was already weaving through the possibilities. What secrets does that corridor hold? And why such a dire warning from Dumbledore? These questions lingered in his thoughts. Around him, the Slytherin table was abuzz with conversations. Daphne Greengrass and Tracy Davis were discussing the possible reasons for the forbidden corridor, while Theodore Nott and Blaise Zabini speculated on the nature of the dangers it might contain. Draco Malfoy, ever the schemer, seemed to be pondering the potential for exploiting this new piece of information. The descent into the dungeons of Hogwarts Castle was a passage into a world unknown to Harry, yet one he felt strangely drawn to. The stone steps, cool and worn from centuries of use, spiraled downwards, leading the group of Slytherin first years deeper into the castle's ancient heart. The torches mounted on the walls flickered, casting shadows that danced across the stone, creating an atmosphere of mystique and aged grandeur. As they reached the bottom of the staircase, the air grew cooler, the unmistakable dampness of the dungeon mingling with a sense of timelessness. Harry walked alongside Daphne Greengrass and Tracy Davis, his eyes keenly observing the new environment he was about to embrace as part of his house. The prefect leading them stopped before a stretch of bare stone wall, indistinguishable from the rest of the dungeon corridor. This is the Slytherin common room entrance, he announced, turning to face the group. We change the password every week, and it's posted inside the common room. Make sure you check for the next password every Sunday evening. It won't be there the next morning. The students, including Harry, nodded in understanding, their attention focused on the wall. The current password is ambition and pride, the prefect declared. At his words, the stone wall slid aside, revealing the entrance to the common room. The students filed in, each eager to discover the secrets of their new home. The Slytherin common room was a sight to behold. The interior was bathed in a dim, greenish light that seemed to emanate from enchanted lamps shaped like serpents, their emerald eyes glowing softly. The walls were adorned with rich, dark tapestries depicting the achievements of famous Slytherins throughout the ages, each one a testament to the house's storied history. The room was spacious, with high, arched ceilings that gave it a cavernous feel. Several comfortable-looking black leather sofas and armchairs were arranged around low tables, providing ample space for studying or socializing. The carpets on the floor were thick and dark green, with patterns of twisting snakes woven into them. One of the most striking features of the common room was a large window that offered a view into the depths of the Black Lake. Through the glass, the eerie, green-tinged waters of the lake could be seen, along with the occasional glimpse of aquatic creatures swimming past. The sight was both mesmerizing and slightly unnerving, serving as a constant reminder of the common room's unique location. Harry, taking it all in, felt a sense of belonging. The common room, with its aura of ambition and the pursuit of greatness, resonated with his own aspirations and determination. He was Slytherin, and this was his domain. As the older students began to settle in, finding their preferred spots and engaging in hushed conversations, Harry's attention was momentarily drawn back to Nigel's voice in his mind. "Quite the cozy little snake pit we have here, wouldn't you say, Master Harry? And that view of the lake certainly beats staring at a brick wall." Harry couldn't help but agree inwardly. The view of the lake added an element of the extraordinary to the common room, setting it apart from anything he had ever experienced. The prefect, having ensured that all the first years were acquainted with the common room, made a final announcement about the dormitories. "The boys' dormitories are through the door on the left, and the girls are on the right. Your belongings have already been brought up. Remember, respect each other's privacy and space." Then the prefect took a step back, allowing room for another figure to step forward. The crowd instinctively parted, creating a clear path to the center of the room. A striking girl, with sharp, intelligent eyes and an air of refined confidence, emerged into view. On her chest, a unique badge materialized, depicting a crown entwined with a serpent. Her presence commanded immediate respect and attention. "Welcome to Slytherin," she began, her voice carrying a tone that demanded respect without the need for volume. She was tall, with an elegant posture that spoke of noble upbringing. Her hair was a rich, dark brown, cascading in waves down her shoulders, and her eyes, a piercing green, scanned the room with an analytical gaze. "I am Selina Rosier, the current serpent of the Crown of Slytherin House. Check for pics." Selina Rosier's presence in the Slytherin common room was commanding, a combination of her noble lineage and an intrinsic aura of power that seemed to radiate from her. As she addressed the new Slytherin students, her voice was confident, resonating with a sense of purpose that instantly drew their attention. "None of you know what it is, even if your parents were previous serpent," she began, her gaze subtly shifting towards Draco Malfoy and Daphne Greengrass. The movement was so slight, almost imperceptible, but Harry caught it. His curiosity piqued, he activated his observe function discreetly. System message. Selina Rosier, exceptional magical talent, particularly in spellcasting and political strategy. Strong leadership qualities, current holder of the Serpent's Crown in Slytherin House. "Now, let me explain what this title holds," she said, her voice clear and resonant. "The Chamber of the Serpents will," Selina began, "is an integral part of Slytherin's legacy. Beyond the known hierarchy of Hogwarts, this chamber, a creation of Salazar Slytherin himself, is embedded with his wisdom and insight. It is not merely a room but a sentient entity, capable of assessing and evaluating the worthiness of Slytherin students." The students listened, rapt with attention as Selina continued. "Each year, the chamber awakens to perform its mystical selection. It magically evaluates us based on our strengths, ambition, cunning, and potential to lead. The most suitable among us is then chosen as the Serpent of the Crown." Harry, intrigued by this revelation, found Nigel's voice echoing in his mind. "Fascinating, isn't it? A chamber that picks the cream of the crop. Slytherin's ways are indeed mysterious." Selina spoke of the Elders' Council, known as the Shadows of Slytherin. This council comprises former serpents of the Crown. Bound by the chamber's magic, they remain impartial, their identities shrouded in secrecy. In the chamber, they speak only the truth. "The duties and powers bestowed upon the Serpent of the Crown are significant," she emphasized. "They receive enhanced magical abilities, a gift from the chamber. Their role is to uphold our traditions, protect our house's interests, and mentor younger members." Nigel's commentary added depth to Selina's words. "It's like having a magical board of directors, with the past leaders guiding the present. The chamber ensures all decisions within are made with honesty and fairness," Selina explained. "Its enchantment compels truth and fairness. Additionally, the serpent can summon magical avatars of past Slytherin legends for counsel." Harry pondered over this, his mind racing with the implications. A magical hierarchy within a house, he thought. Slytherin is more than just a house, it's a legacy. Selina concluded, "Our house's unique structure fosters respect for ancient magic and enriches our cultural identity. The Serpent of the Crown often influences inter-house relations and Hogwarts politics, extending our reach beyond these walls." She finished with a smirk. "I am telling you all these because you won't be able to tell anyone out of this house. That is why none of you knew about it, even if your parents were the former Serpent of Crown." Harry was amazed by the depth and secrecy of Slytherin's traditions. At this moment, the door opened, and in walked Professor Snape, his cape billowing behind him, his gaze hard and penetrating. He looked first at Selina, then turned his attention to the first years. "You are all informed, I hope," Snape began, his voice carrying an edge that commanded attention. "In my house, unity is paramount. We do not tolerate infights outside of these walls. Do not lose points for foolishness, or you will answer me. Slytherin's reputation is built on our solidarity and cunning, not pettiness or lack of discipline." His gaze locked onto Harry, lingering for a moment longer than on the others. "Remember, we are Slytherins. We uphold our house's honor with intelligence and strategy, not rash actions. Any behavior that tarnishes our image will be dealt with swiftly." With these stern words, Snape left as abruptly as he had entered, his cape trailing behind him. The room remained silent for a moment, the weight of his words hanging in the air, before the prefect led the first years to their respective rooms. In Slytherin, every student had a personal room, a luxury that spoke of the house's regard for individuality and privacy. Entering his room, Harry saw his luggage had already been delivered. Most of it was empty, as he kept the majority of his important belongings in his Enchanted Haven briefcase. He opened Hedwig's cage as soon as he entered. "Sorry, girl, I couldn't come earlier to release you," Harry apologized. Hedwig, perched on his shoulder, nibbled on his ear, her way of showing mild displeasure. Harry chuckled, taking out some snacks he had snatched from the Great Hall for her. As Hedwig began to eat, Harry softly called, "Misty." To his surprise, Misty appeared promptly. "Master Harry, what can Misty do for you?" she asked eagerly. Before Harry could respond, another house elf appeared in the room, eyeing Misty with a noticeable hostility. Harry activated his observe function. System message. Tweak, Slytherin house elf. Duties. Maintenance and upkeep of Slytherin common room and dormitories. Traits. Loyal, proud of Slytherin house, wary of outsiders, particularly other house elves entering Slytherin territory. Harry remembered the name from Dumbledore's opening speech, which had included the words, tweak, among a string of seemingly nonsensical terms. Nigel had initially suggested it was a rumor, but now, with Tweak's presence confirmed, the reality was much clearer. Tweak, the Slytherin house elf, looked curiously at Misty, then back at Harry. "Sir Potter, is she be your house elf?" he asked, his voice tinged with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. Harry nodded affirmatively. "Yes, Tweak, I summoned Misty. Is there any issue with that?" he inquired, his tone polite yet firm. Tweak, his eyes widening slightly, responded with a sense of newfound respect. "Sir Harry know of Tweak. Tweak is honored." His voice conveyed genuine surprise and a hint of pride. Harry chuckled softly, a friendly smile playing on his lips. "You were the one who delivered food to the Slytherin table, right?" "Thank you for your service," he said, acknowledging Tweak's hard work. Tweak's expression transformed into one of sheer delight, his eyes glistening as if he was on the verge of tears. "Tweak is just doing his duty. Sir Harry no need to thank Tweak," he replied, his voice quivering with emotion. He then glanced at Misty, his expression becoming slightly more serious. "Misty can enter if Sir Harry summons but not without it. Hogwarts do not allow," Tweak explained, reaffirming the rules regarding house elves within the castle. Harry then turned to Tweak, his curiosity piqued about the possibilities within the Slytherin dormitories. "Tweak, I was wondering if it's possible to expand my room. Could Misty assist with that?" Tweak, looking momentarily insulted, quickly reassured Harry. "Sir Harry no need to call Misty. Tweak is here to assist." With a snap of his fingers, the room magically enlarged, its interior expanding while maintaining the same external dimensions. "Only Hogwarts elves be able to alter Hogwarts. Outsiders be not," Tweak explained, emphasizing the unique capabilities of Hogwarts house elves. Harry, impressed by the swift transformation, nodded in understanding. "Can I count on you then, Tweak?" he asked, appreciating the elf's dedication. Tweak, visibly overwhelmed with emotions, responded earnestly, "Always, Sir Potter." Harry chuckled softly, turning to Misty. "Sorry to bother you this late, Misty. You can return now." Misty bowed gracefully, her voice warm. "No bother, Master Harry. Good night," and with a soft pop, she disappeared. As Misty left, Tweak snapped his fingers again, and an array of snacks and juices appeared on Harry's table. "Good night, Sir Harry. Be always call Tweak if Sir Harry needs anything," Tweak said, his voice filled with pride and loyalty. Harry, feeling a sense of comfort in his new environment, thanked Tweak before the house elf too disappeared with a final pop. Nigel added its own perspective. "Quite a day, Master Harry. Slytherin, the House of Serpents and Secrets, seems to suit you well." Harry smirked slightly. "It does, doesn't it? Slytherin offers opportunities and challenges that I didn't anticipate." He then gazed at the snacks Tweak had brought, his mind wandering to the possibilities that lay ahead. "I suppose being in Slytherin will require a blend of cunning and caution." Nigel responded, "Indeed, and a healthy dose of skepticism wouldn't hurt either. Slytherin is not just a house, it's a game of chess where every move counts." Harry nodded thoughtfully, his eyes glinting with determination. "Well then, let the game begin." As he lay back on his bed, his gaze fell on Hedwig, perched quietly on her cage. He opened the window, ushering her out. "You're free to go, Hedwig. Explore the castle, but be careful." Hedwig hooted softly, spreading her wings and gliding out of the open window into the night sky. Harry's thoughts then turned to the chamber of the Serpents' Will and the Elders' Council. "Nigel, what do you make of this chamber and the council Selena mentioned? It sounds like an intricate part of Slytherin's history." Nigel's voice resonated with intrigue. "A chamber that selects the leader based on qualities beyond mere academics or blood status, that's quite progressive for a house often misunderstood." As for the council, it's a fascinating concept, guidance from those who have walked the path before. Harry considered this. It adds a layer of depth to Slytherin, doesn't it? It's not just about ambition but also about leadership and legacy. Exactly, Nigel agreed. And with your unique abilities, you might find yourself more involved with these aspects than you initially thought. Harry's mind was already racing with plans and strategies. I need to understand the dynamics of this house, the players involved, and where I fit in. Patience, Master Harry, Nigel advised. Observe, learn, and when the time is right, make your move. Slytherin is a house where patience often rewards the cunning. Harry nodded, his thoughts aligned with Nigel's advice. He stood up, deciding to take a brief tour of the common room before retiring for the night. As he stepped out of his room, the cool, damp air of the dungeons greeted him, a stark contrast to the warmth of his room. The common room was now quieter, with only a few students engaged in hushed conversations. The greenish light from the serpent-shaped lamps cast an eerie glow on their faces. Harry moved silently, his senses heightened, taking in every detail of his new surroundings. Harry paused, a tinge of disappointment in his voice. Not even a library, he mused, his eyes scanning the room. Nigel chuckled. Oh, I forgot to mention. A new function has been activated in the technology system. You can now access a map of Hogwarts. Harry was taken aback. When did this happen? He inquired, curious. Nigel explained, it activated when you stepped into the castle. I withheld this information during the sorting, didn't want to distract you with too many details at once. Show me, please, Harry requested, intrigued. A holographic screen materialized in front of Harry, with a detailed map of Hogwarts. He stood at the center, clearly marked. The room he was in was labeled Slytherin Common Room, with the current password, Ambition and Pride, displayed alongside. This is quite amazing, Harry remarked, his eyes wide with wonder. Is the password there because I know it, or is it one of the functions of the map? Nigel's voice contained a hint of amusement. A bit of both, I'd say. The map integrates your knowledge with the system's database, providing real-time information. Quite handy for navigating this ancient castle, don't you think? Harry nodded in agreement, still fascinated by the map. It's incredible. It'll be a valuable tool for exploring Hogwarts. Returning to his room, he undressed and stepped into the shower, letting the warm water wash over him. The droplets cascaded down his skin, soothing his muscles and clearing his mind. He closed his eyes, inhaling deeply, allowing the steam and warmth to envelop him in a moment of tranquility. He then went to sleep, needing a restful night's sleep to process everything he had learned. The following morning, Harry woke up early with a renewed sense of purpose. He donned his exercise clothes, feeling the need to clear his mind and prepare for the challenges ahead. Harry donned his exercise clothes. He then approached the Enchanted Haven briefcase, a remarkable artifact containing a miniature world. Uttering the password, Potter's Haven, the briefcase expanded, revealing a full-sized entrance to an enchanted land. Stepping inside, Harry found himself in the mansion's spacious spa room. The room was large enough for a rigorous workout, equipped with various gym tools that Harry had added for his training. The walls were adorned with enchanted mirrors reflecting his every move, ensuring his form was precise during exercises. He started with a thorough warm-up, stretching his limbs and loosening his muscles, preparing his body for the more strenuous activities to follow. His movements were fluid and practiced, each stretch and twist executed with meticulous care. The mirrors showed his progress, and he adjusted his posture accordingly. Once warmed up, Harry began his workout routine. He started with basic calisthenics, doing sets of push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. Each movement was sharp and deliberate, honing his physical strength and endurance. He increased the intensity as he went, pushing his body to its limits while maintaining a steady breathing rhythm. Transitioning from calisthenics, Harry moved on to weight training. He selected dumbbells, adjusting their weight with a simple command, a feature unique to the magical gym equipment in the mansion. He performed various exercises, including bicep curls, tricep extensions, and shoulder presses. His muscles flexed and tensed with each lift, showcasing the result of his consistent training. After the weight training, Harry shifted his focus to agility and balance. He navigated through a custom-designed obstacle course in the room, leaping over hurdles, balancing on beams, and maneuvering around obstacles with nimble grace. This part of his routine not only improved his physical agility but also sharpened his mental acuity, as he had to constantly anticipate and react to the ever-changing course. Completing the obstacle course, Harry took a brief respite, hydrating himself and catching his breath. He then prepared for the final segment of his workout, magical practice. This was a crucial part of his routine, blending his physical training with his magical capabilities. Without a wand, Harry relied on his innate talent for wandless magic. He focused his mind, channeling his magical energy through sheer will and concentration. He practiced various spells, from simple levitations to more complex transfigurations, each cast without the aid of a wand. His control and precision had improved significantly, a testament to his dedication and natural aptitude for magic. As Harry practiced his wandless magic, Nigel's voice chimed in, "I must say, your dedication to both physical and magical fitness is commendable, Master Harry. A true Slytherin, always striving for excellence." Harry smirked, not breaking his concentration. "Thanks, Nigel, the new chamber and title made me think." He then shifted his focus to defensive spells, practicing conjuring spells such as Ice Charm to create shields. His movements were swift, each spell cast with a purpose. The rune's enchantments provided him with simulated magical attacks, to which Harry responded instinctively, weaving a dance of magical defense. Finishing his magical training, Harry took a deep breath, feeling a sense of accomplishment and readiness for the day ahead. His body and mind were in harmony, a balance he had worked hard to achieve. As he stepped out of the Enchanted Haven briefcase, the mansion shrinking back into the briefcase with a soft whisper. Having a quick shower, Harry checked his clock. It was still early. He had time to check the castle. Firstly, he wanted to see what the castle had to offer. Second, he would expand the map's area so long as he once entered that area. His plan was to start from one corner of the dungeon and slowly climb up. He knew it would take more than a day to see the whole castle, but he was determined to do as much as he could. Before leaving, he took out the enchanted mirror for distant viewing and placed it in his robe. This mirror was a remarkable device with a golden frame and embedded magical crystals, allowing the user to view distant places or people by speaking their name or location. But there were steep limitations. It could only show places and people it had seen before, and some highly secure locations might be obscured. Still, it would be invaluable in exploring Hogwarts and keeping a record of his discoveries. Stepping out into the dungeons, Harry felt a thrill of anticipation. The dimly lit corridors, with their ancient stones and the history they held, seemed to whisper secrets to those who dared to listen. He started his exploration, making his way through the twisting pathways, each turn revealing more of the castle's hidden depths. As he walked, the technology system's map expanded, recording every new area he entered. He made mental notes of interesting spots, hidden alcoves, mysterious doors, and the occasional portrait that seemed to watch him with a knowing gaze. Moving on, Harry continued his exploration, his steps echoing softly in the quiet corridors. He passed through areas that felt untouched by time, where the air held a stillness that spoke of long-gone eras. The dim light from the torches cast flickering shadows, adding to the mystique of his journey. After exploring the dungeons, Harry decided to climb higher into the castle. As he ascended to the ground floor, the architecture changed, the stone giving way to lighter, more elegant designs. Here, the windows were larger, allowing light to stream in, illuminating the corridors with a warm glow. Harry paused occasionally to interact with some of the portraits. They offered tidbits of history and advice, sometimes cryptic, sometimes amusing. Nigel's voice in his mind provided wry commentary on these interactions, adding a layer of humor to the adventure. "Ah, chatting with the ancestors, are we? Make sure to ask them where they hid their secret stashes," Nigel quipped, his tone light yet insightful. Harry's exploration of the ground floor of Hogwarts was a fascinating journey through the castle's rich history and diverse architecture. The more he explored, the more he realized the sheer scale of the magical edifice. Corridors branched off in multiple directions, leading to classrooms, common rooms, and various other unknown destinations. The grandeur of the castle was evident in every stone, every tapestry, and every suit of armor that adorned its walls. However, Harry couldn't even finish a quarter of the ground floor when Nigel's voice echoed in his mind. "It is time for breakfast, Master Harry." Harry, his stomach growling in agreement, responded, "You're right, Nigel. Time to see what the Great Hall has to offer." As he made his way towards the Great Hall, Nigel's voice chimed in again, "Also, a quest." Harry's eyebrows raised in interest. "Oh, been a while since you gave me a quest." A system message appeared in front of his eyes. System message. Quest, find the magical map of Hogwarts. Reward. Upgrading system map to show living beings, their names, their positions, and their current activity. Harry's eyes lit up with intrigue. This sounds like a challenge. "Any clues, Nigel?" Nigel's voice, laced with a hint of mischief, replied, "Where would the fun be if I just told you everything? But consider this, such a treasure should be in the hands of someone already. They must be making use of this treasure, knowing hidden paths others don't." Harry nodded thoughtfully. "So, I should look for someone who knows a lot about Hogwarts. I'll keep my eyes open." With a renewed sense of purpose, Harry entered the Great Hall for breakfast. The hall was bustling with students, the 4 house tables filled with chatter and the clatter of cutlery. The enchanted ceiling above mirrored the clear blue sky outside, adding to the hall's enchanting atmosphere. Harry took a seat at the Slytherin table, noting the curious glances from some of his housemates. He served himself some scrambled eggs and toast. As he ate his breakfast, listening to the conversations around him, gathering information about the daily happenings at Hogwarts. The talk was mostly about classes, Quidditch, and the usual school gossip. After breakfast, Harry, with his mind still buzzing from the quest Nigel had hinted at, made his way to his first class of the year, History of Magic. The class, infamous for its dullness, was taught by the ghost Professor Binns, who had a talent for making even the most fascinating historical events sound insufferably tedious. As Professor Binns droned on about Emmerich the Evil and Uric the Oddball in a monotonous voice that seemed to echo endlessly in the spacious classroom, Harry quickly realized that staying awake would be a Herculean task. He observed his classmates. Some were trying valiantly to take notes, while others had already succumbed to sleep, their heads resting on their desks in surrender. Deciding to make the best of the situation, Harry activated the transcribing function of the technology system. A virtual screen popped up in front of him, recording every word spoken by Professor Binns. Satisfied that he wouldn't miss any crucial information, Harry allowed himself to drift off, his head resting on his arms. As the ghostly voice of Professor Binns faded into the background, Nigel's wry comment slipped into Harry's mind. The joys of learning history from someone who's part of it. It's like listening to paint dry, only less exciting. Harry, half asleep, couldn't help but crack a small smile at Nigel's apt observation. The bell signaling the end of the class was a welcome sound, rousing Harry and his classmates from their slumber. Harry fell into a routine in Hogwarts. The next few days were equally monotonous until Thursday came. The class was one Harry had been eagerly anticipating, Transfiguration, taught by Professor McGonagall. Leaving the Great Hall after breakfast, Harry found himself flanked by Daphne Greengrass and Tracy Davis. Tracy's voice, brimming with excitement, broke the post-class silence. Transfiguration, how exciting. Harry nodded in agreement, his own anticipation palpable. I am excited too. Transfiguration is one of the most complex yet achieving branch of spellcasting, he responded, feeling a genuine eagerness for the class. Daphne, though silent, mirrored their excitement with her expressive eyes. The trio made their way to the Transfiguration classroom, navigating the bustling corridors of Hogwarts. As they entered the classroom, Harry's attention was momentarily diverted by Hermione Granger, who waved at him from across the room. Her gesture seemed out of character, reminding Harry of the influence from Dumbledore and to keep his eye open on other people. Nevertheless, he courteously waved back, maintaining a polite facade. Choosing a seat on the left side of the classroom, Harry observed the split arrangement of the room, Slytherins on the left and Gryffindors on the right, an unspoken rule that mirrored the houses' long-standing rivalry. Frowning at the clear divide, he thought if he could do anything about it. His gaze then fell upon a tubby cat perched on the professor's desk. Something about the cat struck him as peculiar. Activating his observe function, he wasn't surprised to find his suspicions confirmed. System message. Professor McGonagall, Animagus. Currently in her cat form. Distinguished by the spectacles pattern around her eyes, a trait carried over from her human form. Harry smiled inwardly at the discovery of another Animagus. Nigel's voice echoed in his mind, his tone laced with a hint of intrigue. Look around her eyes, Master Harry. Most Animagi carry the traits of their human look upon gaining the ability to change. Harry studied Professor McGonagall more closely, noticing the distinctive markings around the cat's eyes, reminiscent of the glasses she wore in her human form. This attention to detail fascinated him, revealing the intricacies of the magical world he was still unraveling. The cat looked back at Harry, its eyes meeting his with a knowing glint. Harry offered a subtle nod of recognition, to which the cat responded with a slight tilt of its head before turning away. The classroom was filled with a mix of anticipation and nervous chatter as students awaited the start of the lesson. Just then, the door swung open, and Ron Weasley, accompanied by Seamus Finnegan, hurried in. Ron's sigh of relief was palpable as he scanned the classroom. We made it. Can you imagine the look on McGonagall's face if we were late? He said, a hint of mischief in his voice. The cat, previously perched regally on the professor's desk, gracefully leapt to the air. In a fluid motion, it transformed into the stern yet elegant figure of Professor McGonagall. Ron, witnessing the transformation, couldn't hide his awe. That was bloody brilliant, he exclaimed. Professor McGonagall, in her usual dry manner, responded, Thank you for the assessment, Mr. Weasley. She glanced at the two boys with a mix of disapproval and amusement. Perhaps it would be more useful if I were to transfigure Mr. Finnegan and yourself into a pocket watch. That way, one of you might be on time. Seamus, slightly flustered, offered a weak defense. We got lost. Then perhaps a map, McGonagall retorted sharply. I trust you don't need one to find your seats. The class stifled their laughter as Ron and Seamus sheepishly made their way to their seats. Professor McGonagall then turned to face the class, her demeanor shifting to one of solemnity. Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts, she began, her voice commanding attention. Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back. You have been warned. With a wave of her wand, the desk in front of her transformed into a pig, then back again. The class watched in awe, the reality of their magical education dawning upon them. Harry, deeply interested, leaned forward. Nigel's voice, though unheard by others, whispered in his mind, "Impressive, isn't it? But don't get your hopes up for turning your homework into a dragon anytime soon." McGonagall began her lecture on the fundamentals of transfiguration. Transfiguration is not mere changing of one object into another. It is an art that requires understanding the essence of objects and creatures, down to their very molecular structure. The first step in transfiguration is to visualize the desired outcome in detail. You must not only see the form but understand the nature of what you are trying to create. This requires an in-depth study of the properties and characteristics of the subject. Next is the intention. Your intent must be clear and focused. Hesitation or doubt can lead to incomplete or unstable transformations. Magic, particularly transfiguration, is as much about your will as it is about the wand movements or incantations. Professor McGonagall demonstrated a simple spell, turning a feather into a matchstick then to a needle. Notice the precision required in the wand movement, a delicate twist with a firm flick at the end. Harry quickly spoke up, his voice low but firm. "Nigel, activate the analysis mode. Record her wand movements and the spells she uses. I don't want to miss anything." Nigel, always ready to assist, responded promptly, "Right away, Master Harry. The recording has begun. I'll capture every detail." With a renewed sense of purpose, Harry entered the great hall for breakfast. The hall was bustling with students, the 4 house tables filled with chatter and the clatter of cutlery. The enchanted ceiling above mirrored the clear blue sky outside, adding to the hall's enchanting atmosphere. Harry took a seat at the Slytherin table, noting the curious glances from some of his housemates. He served himself some scrambled eggs and toast. As he ate his breakfast, listening to the conversations around him, gathering information about the daily happenings at Hogwarts. The talk was mostly about classes, Quidditch, and the usual school gossip. After breakfast, Harry, with his mind still buzzing from the quest Nigel had hinted at, made his way to his first class of the year, History of Magic. The class, infamous for its dullness, was taught by the ghost Professor Binns, who had a talent for making even the most fascinating historical events sound insufferably tedious. As Professor Binns droned on about Emmerich the Evil and Uric the Oddball in a monotonous voice that seemed to echo endlessly in the spacious classroom, Harry quickly realized that staying awake would be a Herculean task. He observed his classmates. Some were trying valiantly to take notes, while others had already succumbed to sleep, their heads resting on their desks in surrender. Deciding to make the best of the situation, Harry activated the transcribing function of the technology system. A virtual screen popped up in front of him, recording every word spoken by Professor Binns. Satisfied that he wouldn't miss any crucial information, Harry allowed himself to drift off, his head resting on his arms. As the ghostly voice of Professor Binns faded into the background, Nigel's wry comment slipped into Harry's mind. "Ah, the joys of learning history from someone who's part of it. It's like listening to paint dry, only less exciting." Harry, half asleep, couldn't help but crack a small smile at Nigel's apt observation. The bell signaling the end of the class was a welcome sound, rousing Harry and his classmates from their slumber. Harry fell into a routine in Hogwarts. The next few days were equally monotonous until Thursday came. The class was one Harry had been eagerly anticipating, Transfiguration, taught by Professor McGonagall. Leaving the Great Hall after breakfast, Harry found himself flanked by Daphne Greengrass and Tracy Davis. Tracy's voice, brimming with excitement, broke the post-class silence. "Transfiguration, how exciting!" Harry nodded in agreement, his own anticipation palpable. "I am excited too. Transfiguration is one of the most complex yet achieving branch of spellcasting," he responded, feeling a genuine eagerness for the class. Daphne, though silent, mirrored their excitement with her expressive eyes. The trio made their way to the Transfiguration classroom, navigating the bustling corridors of Hogwarts. As they entered the classroom, Harry's attention was momentarily diverted by Hermione Granger, who waved at him from across the room. Her gesture seemed out of character, reminding Harry of the influence from Dumbledore and to keep his eye open on other people. Nevertheless, he courteously waved back, maintaining a polite facade. Choosing a seat on the left side of the classroom, Harry observed the split arrangement of the room, Slytherins on the left and Gryffindors on the right, an unspoken rule that mirrored the houses' long-standing rivalry. Frowning at the clear divide, he thought if he could do anything about it. His gaze then fell upon a tubby cat perched on the professor's desk. Something about the cat struck him as peculiar. Activating his observe function, he wasn't surprised to find his suspicions confirmed. System message. Professor McGonagall, Animagus. Currently in her cat form. Distinguished by the spectacles pattern around her eyes, a trait carried over from her human form. Harry smiled inwardly at the discovery of another Animagus. Nigel's voice echoed in his mind, his tone laced with a hint of intrigue. "Look around her eyes, Master Harry. Most Animagi carry the traits of their human look upon gaining the ability to change." Harry studied Professor McGonagall more closely, noticing the distinctive markings around the cat's eyes, reminiscent of the glasses she wore in her human form. This attention to detail fascinated him, revealing the intricacies of the magical world he was still unraveling. The cat looked back at Harry, its eyes meeting his with a knowing glint. Harry offered a subtle nod of recognition, to which the cat responded with a slight tilt of its head before turning away. The classroom was filled with a mix of anticipation and nervous chatter as students awaited the start of the lesson. Just then, the door swung open, and Ron Weasley, accompanied by Seamus Finnegan, hurried in. Ron's sigh of relief was palpable as he scanned the classroom. "We made it. Can you imagine the look on McGonagall's face if we were late?" he said, a hint of mischief in his voice. The cat, previously perched regally on the professor's desk, gracefully leapt to the air. In a fluid motion, it transformed into the stern yet elegant figure of Professor McGonagall. Ron, witnessing the transformation, couldn't hide his awe. "That was bloody brilliant," he exclaimed. Professor McGonagall, in her usual dry manner, responded, "Thank you for the assessment, Mr. Weasley." She glanced at the two boys with a mix of disapproval and amusement. "Perhaps it would be more useful if I were to transfigure Mr. Finnegan and yourself into a pocket watch. That way, one of you might be on time." Seamus, slightly flustered, offered a weak defense. "We got lost." "Then perhaps a map," McGonagall retorted sharply. "I trust you don't need one to find your seats." The class stifled their laughter as Ron and Seamus sheepishly made their way to their seats. Professor McGonagall then turned to face the class, her demeanor shifting to one of solemnity. "Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts," she began, her voice commanding attention. "Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back. You have been warned." With a wave of her wand, the desk in front of her transformed into a pig, then back again. The class watched in awe, the reality of their magical education dawning upon them. Harry, deeply interested, leaned forward. Nigel's voice, though unheard by others, whispered in his mind, "Impressive, isn't it? But don't get your hopes up for turning your homework into a dragon anytime soon." McGonagall began her lecture on the fundamentals of transfiguration. Transfiguration is not mere changing of one object into another. It is an art that requires understanding the essence of objects and creatures, down to their very molecular structure. The first step in transfiguration is to visualize the desired outcome in detail. You must not only see the form but understand the nature of what you are trying to create. This requires an in-depth study of the properties and characteristics of the subject. Next is the intention. Your intent must be clear and focused. Hesitation or doubt can lead to incomplete or unstable transformations. Magic, particularly transfiguration, is as much about your will as it is about the wand movements or incantations. Professor McGonagall demonstrated a simple spell, turning a feather into a matchstick then to a needle. Notice the precision required in the wand movement, a delicate twist with a firm flick at the end. Harry quickly spoke up, his voice low but firm. "Nigel, activate the analysis mode. Record her wand movements and the spells she uses. I don't want to miss anything." Nigel, always ready to assist, responded promptly, "Right away, Master Harry. The recording has begun. I'll capture every detail." As Professor McGonagall continued her lecture, the system began its meticulous recording. The holographic screen discreetly positioned in front of Harry displayed a detailed breakdown of the professor's wand movements, capturing the nuances of her technique with precision. The screen provided a real-time analysis, breaking down the intricate sequence of motions and the corresponding magical incantation. The essence of transfiguration lies in the understanding of the fundamental nature of both the caster and the target, Professor McGonagall explained. You are not merely altering the form but redefining the very structure of the object. She then demonstrated another transformation, this time turning a glass of water into a crystal goblet. Her wand moved in a precise, elegant arc, accompanied by a soft, yet distinct incantation. The glass morphed seamlessly, taking on the intricate design and clarity of a goblet, a change that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Harry observed intently, his eyes flicking between the professor and the holographic screen. Nigel's voice provided a running commentary. "Notice the fluidity of her movement, Master Harry. It's not just the spell but the grace with which it's executed." As McGonagall continued, she emphasized the importance of focus and concentration. A wandering mind can lead to unexpected results in transfiguration. One must be fully present, mentally and emotionally. She shared anecdotes of past students' mishaps, some amusing, some cautionary. Her storytelling was interspersed with practical advice, making the lessons more engaging and relatable. She then continued, "Now, let's discuss the ethical implications of transfiguration," her tone taking on a more serious note. Professor McGonagall's expression was stern, her eyes scanning the classroom. "This is not just about the ability to change one thing into another. It's about the responsibility that comes with such power. You must understand the consequences of your actions, both intended and unintended." The room fell silent as she spoke, the gravity of her words sinking in. Transfiguration is an art that demands respect and ethical consideration. When you transfigure an object, you alter its very essence. This transformation can have lasting impacts if not handled responsibly. She then fixed her gaze upon the students, a look that would remain etched in their memories as the most ominous they had ever witnessed. Her sharp, penetrating eyes conveyed a gravity that hung heavily in the room. She began, her voice low yet resonant, echoing ominously, transfiguring an object into a liquid or gas is not to be taken lightly. While you are within the protective wards of Hogwarts, the castle will shield the consumer from potential harm that may arise when a transfigured object is reverted. Professors will also be alerted. However, be warned that if anyone intentionally or as a prank transfigures an item into something consumable and feeds it to another, they risk potential retaliation through the reversal of the transfiguration, although it is an exceedingly complex feat, will be expelled immediately and there is a chance to be imprisoned in Azkaban. The room was still, the students absorbing the gravity of her words. The mention of Azkaban sent a chill through the air, the reality of the consequences of misuse of transfiguration dawning upon them. Failure to heed this rule could result in irreversible damage, or worse, loss of life. The magic we wield is potent and must be handled with the utmost care and respect. Her gaze swept across the room, ensuring each student understood the severity of her warning. Transfiguration is not a tool for frivolity or malice. It is an art that requires discipline, control, and a deep understanding of the magical properties of the world around us. Remember, with great power comes a great need for responsible shape-shifting. Harry raised his hand, surprising most of the class with his insightful inquiry. Professor, he began, his voice steady and clear, from what I understand, this application of magic could be considered one of the deadliest. Its power and potential for widespread impact might even surpass that of many dark spells. Not only is it untraceable, but it can also affect multiple people simultaneously. Given the gravity of this, surely there must be safeguards in place. Professor McGonagall, taken aback by the depth of Harry's question, nodded approvingly. A very insightful question, Mr. Potter. 10 points to Slytherin, she announced, her eyes reflecting a hint of admiration. Indeed, transfiguration, especially of this nature, carries significant risks and potential for harm. She paused for a moment, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. Wizards and witches are fundamentally different from muggles, not just in our ability to perform magic, but also in how our bodies and minds are attuned to the magical world. Our innate magical essence offers us protection against common illnesses and enhances other abilities, such as our intuition. The intuition of a magical being is not something to be underestimated, McGonagall emphasized. It is this innate sense that guards us against many forms of magical deception and harm. For example, you cannot trick a dragon with a transfigured object. They would sense the magic's inconsistency from miles away. Harry listened intently, absorbing every word. Nigel chimed in, quite the safeguard, wouldn't you say? It's like having a built-in lie detector, but for magic. McGonagall continued, this intuition extends to other magical creatures and to us as well. Our bodies and minds are subtly attuned to detect irregularities in magic, particularly when it comes to transfiguration. This is not to say that accidents don't happen, but our magical nature provides a layer of protection. Then McGonagall added, also, the magic within our bodies acts as a protection against foreign magic. She looked around the class, her expression serious but engaging. With a graceful wave of her hand, the chalkboard behind her came to life. A detailed drawing of a human figure appeared, surrounded by a shimmering, protective shield. Transfiguring an object within a magical being's body is nigh impossible, she stated, her voice carrying a note of finality. The illustration on the board showed the shield enveloping the human figure, representing the innate magical protection every witch and wizard possesses. Our magical essence, McGonagall continued, our magical essence naturally repels attempts to alter our physical structure, McGonagall explained. It's a defense mechanism, preventing any external magical influence from directly transforming our bodies. Harry's curiosity was piqued. Professor, does that mean transfiguration cannot be used as a form of attack on a wizard or witch? He asked. She answered, the caster's magical capacity should exceed the opponent's by a great degree to do such a thing, which is redundant, as such a difference in magical power means the caster can eliminate the opponent without wasting so much effort. The class absorbed this information, understanding the complexities and limitations of transfiguration as a form of attack. Professor McGonagall's explanation highlighted the intricate balance between power and skill in the wizarding world. Harry, intrigued, further inquired, so, in a duel, would transfiguration be more of a strategic tool rather than a direct means of attack? Professor McGonagall nodded. Precisely, Mr. Potter. Transfiguration in duels is often used for creating diversions, altering the terrain, or transforming objects to gain a tactical advantage. It requires quick thinking and a deep understanding of both your environment, and your opponent's capabilities. As Professor McGonagall continued her lecture, the system began its meticulous recording. The holographic screen discreetly positioned in front of Harry displayed a detailed breakdown of the professor's wand movements, capturing the nuances of her technique with precision. The screen provided a real-time analysis, breaking down the intricate sequence of motions and the corresponding magical incantation. The essence of transfiguration lies in the understanding of the fundamental nature of both the caster and the target, Professor McGonagall explained. You are not merely altering the form but redefining the very structure of the object. She then demonstrated another transformation, this time turning a glass of water into a crystal goblet. Her wand moved in a precise, elegant arc, accompanied by a soft, yet distinct incantation. The glass morphed seamlessly, taking on the intricate design and clarity of a goblet, a change that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Harry observed intently, his eyes flicking between the professor and the holographic screen. Nigel's voice provided a running commentary. Notice the fluidity of her movement, Master Harry. It's not just the spell but the grace with which it's executed. As McGonagall continued, she emphasized the importance of focus and concentration. A wandering mind can lead to unexpected results in transfiguration. One must be fully present, mentally and emotionally. She shared anecdotes of past students' mishaps, some amusing, some cautionary. Her storytelling was interspersed with practical advice, making the lessons more engaging and relatable. She then continued, now, let's discuss the ethical implications of transfiguration, her tone taking on a more serious note. Professor McGonagall's expression was stern, her eyes scanning the classroom. This is not just about the ability to change one thing into another. It's about the responsibility that comes with such power. You must understand the consequences of your actions, both intended and unintended. The room fell silent as she spoke, the gravity of her words sinking in. Transfiguration is an art that demands respect and ethical consideration. When you transfigure an object, you alter its very essence. This transformation can have lasting impacts if not handled responsibly. She then fixed her gaze upon the students, a look that would remain etched in their memories as the most ominous they had ever witnessed. Her sharp, penetrating eyes conveyed a gravity that hung heavily in the room. She began, her voice low yet resonant, echoing ominously, transfiguring an object into a liquid or gas is not to be taken lightly. While you are within the protective wards of Hogwarts, the castle will shield the consumer from potential harm that may arise when a transfigured object is reverted. Professors will also be alerted. However, be warned that if anyone intentionally or as a prank transfigures an item into something consumable and feeds it to another, they risk potential retaliation through the reversal of the transfiguration, although it is an exceedingly complex feat, will be expelled immediately and there is a chance to be imprisoned in Azkaban. The room was still, the students absorbing the gravity of her words. The mention of Azkaban sent a chill through the air, the reality of the consequences of misuse of transfiguration dawning upon them. Failure to heed this rule could result in irreversible damage, or worse, loss of life. The magic we wield is potent and must be handled with the utmost care and respect. Her gaze swept across the room, ensuring each student understood the severity of her warning. Transfiguration is not a tool for frivolity or malice. It is an art that requires discipline, control, and a deep understanding of the magical properties of the world around us. Remember, with great power comes a great need for responsible shape-shifting. Harry raised his hand, surprising most of the class with his insightful inquiry. Professor, he began, his voice steady and clear, from what I understand, this application of magic could be considered one of the deadliest. Its power and potential for widespread impact might even surpass that of many dark spells. Not only is it untraceable, but it can also affect multiple people simultaneously. Given the gravity of this, surely there must be safeguards in place. Professor McGonagall, taken aback by the depth of Harry's question, nodded approvingly. A very insightful question, Mr. Potter. 10 points to Slytherin, she announced, her eyes reflecting a hint of admiration. Indeed, transfiguration, especially of this nature, carries significant risks and potential for harm. She paused for a moment, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. Wizards and witches are fundamentally different from muggles, not just in our ability to perform magic, but also in how our bodies and minds are attuned to the magical world. Our innate magical essence offers us protection against common illnesses and enhances other abilities, such as our intuition. The intuition of a magical being is not something to be underestimated, McGonagall emphasized. It is this innate sense that guards us against many forms of magical deception and harm. For example, you cannot trick a dragon with a transfigured object. They would sense the magic's inconsistency from miles away. Harry listened intently, absorbing every word. Nigel chimed in, quite the safeguard, wouldn't you say? It's like having a built-in lie detector, but for magic. McGonagall continued, this intuition extends to other magical creatures and to us as well. Our bodies and minds are subtly attuned to detect irregularities in magic, particularly when it comes to transfiguration. This is not to say that accidents don't happen, but our magical nature provides a layer of protection. Then McGonagall added, also, the magic within our bodies acts as a protection against foreign magic. She looked around the class, her expression serious but engaging. With a graceful wave of her hand, the chalkboard behind her came to life. A detailed drawing of a human figure appeared, surrounded by a shimmering, protective shield. Transfiguring an object within a magical being's body is nigh impossible, she stated, her voice carrying a note of finality. The illustration on the board showed the shield enveloping the human figure, representing the innate magical protection every witch and wizard possesses. Our magical essence, McGonagall continued, our magical essence naturally repels attempts to alter our physical structure, McGonagall explained. It's a defense mechanism, preventing any external magical influence from directly transforming our bodies. Harry's curiosity was piqued. Professor, does that mean transfiguration cannot be used as a form of attack on a wizard or witch? He asked. She answered, the caster's magical capacity should exceed the opponent's by a great degree to do such a thing, which is redundant, as such a difference in magical power means the caster can eliminate the opponent without wasting so much effort. The class absorbed this information, understanding the complexities and limitations of transfiguration as a form of attack. Professor McGonagall's explanation highlighted the intricate balance between power and skill in the wizarding world. Harry, intrigued, further inquired, so, in a duel, would transfiguration be more of a strategic tool rather than a direct means of attack? Professor McGonagall nodded. Precisely, Mr. Potter. Transfiguration in duels is often used for creating diversions, altering the terrain, or transforming objects to gain a tactical advantage. It requires quick thinking and a deep understanding of both your environment, and your opponent's capabilities. As the class settled into a focused silence, Professor McGonagall's voice resonated through the room, delving into the intricate laws that govern the art of transfiguration. We begin with Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration, a set of principles that underpin the boundaries of our magical capabilities, she explained, her gaze sweeping over the students, ensuring each understood the gravity of the subject. The first principle we shall explore is the immutable law of food, McGonagall began. Contrary to what some might hope, it is impossible to conjure food from nothing. Magic allows us to multiply, enlarge, or summon food, provided it already exists in some form. This law is a fundamental reminder of the limits of our powers and the respect we owe to the natural order of the world. The ability to create sustenance from thin air remains beyond our grasp, ensuring a balance between the magical and the natural world. She paused, letting the information sink in before continuing. Moving on, we encounter the immutable law of life creation. This law states unequivocally that genuine life, complete with consciousness and a soul, is beyond the scope of transfiguration. While our magic can animate inanimate objects or create lifelike illusions, these creations lack the true essence of life. They are but shadows, lacking a soul or consciousness. This law serves as a solemn reminder of the sanctity of life and the boundaries of our influence over it. The students listened, rapt with attention, as McGonagall's words painted a vivid picture of the limitations and responsibilities that came with their magical abilities. The third aspect of Gamp's law addresses a matter of great sensitivity and importance, the immutable law of resurrection. It is a stark truth that the dead cannot be returned to life. Our magic, powerful though it is, cannot breach the veil that separates the living from the dead. We may conjure echoes or semblances of those who have passed, but these are mere reflections, devoid of the true spirit and essence of the departed. This law underscores the finality of death and the need for respect and acceptance of this natural conclusion of life. Harry, deeply absorbed in the lecture, found his thoughts echoing Nigel's silent commentary. A humbling reminder of the limits of even the most powerful magic, Nigel noted, his tone tinged with a solemn respect for the laws that governed their world. McGonagall shifted her focus to the next principle. We then come to the immutable law of natural order and capacity. This law governs the transformation between living and non-living entities. When we transfigure a non-living object into a living creature, it will gain movement, yet lack consciousness as explained in the second law. Conversely, a living being transformed into an inanimate object will lose its ability to move and cannot revert back without external assistance. Particularly in human transfiguration, an individual loses their capacity for human thought when transformed into an animal, making self-reversion impossible. This law is a testament to the complexities of life and the respect we must have for the natural properties of all beings. Her explanation painted a vivid picture of the intricate balance between magic and the natural world, emphasizing the ethical implications and responsibilities inherent in their practice of transfiguration. Lastly, we explore the immutable law of absolute knowledge. This principle dictates that knowledge or understanding cannot be directly imparted or absorbed through transfiguration. While magic can facilitate the learning process, it cannot replace the fundamental need for study and experience. True mastery and comprehension come from dedication and practice, not merely the application of magic. This law reinforces the value of hard work and the pursuit of knowledge, a cornerstone of our magical education. Hearing the last principle of Gamp's law, Harry was taken aback. He remembered Nigel's ability to upload information directly into his brain, which seemed to contradict this law. Nigel, isn't that what you do? Uploading information directly into my brain? Harry thought to himself, his mind swirling with questions. Nigel's response came with his usual levity, well, I am beyond magical capacities of living. Harry wasn't sure if Nigel was joking or not, but the AI's capabilities always seemed to blur the lines between magic and technology. With this thought lingering in his mind, Harry turned to Professor McGonagall. Professor, I saw in some of the books that Gamp had 6 theories, not 5, he said, recalling his readings. Although, the book hadn't detailed these laws, so it was his first time hearing them explained so thoroughly. Professor McGonagall fixed her gaze on Harry, pondering whether it was wise to delve into such a speculative topic. She weighed her decision, knowing that the 6th law was more a rumor than an established fact. Finally, she nodded slightly, deciding to enlighten her curious student. Mr. Potter, you were correct in that there has been speculation about a 6th principle of Gamp's law, she began, her voice carrying a hint of caution. However, it remains a subject of much debate and conjecture among magical scholars. The nature of this law, if it indeed exists, is not clearly understood. The class leaned in, their interest piqued by this mysterious revelation. McGonagall continued, some theorize that the 6th law could relate to the very essence of magic itself, perhaps a fundamental rule governing the limitations of transfiguration. Others speculate it might involve the balance of the magical world, a principle that ensures harmony between the magical and the natural. Harry absorbed this information, his mind racing with the implications of such a law. Nigel added his perspective. Intriguing, isn't it? A hidden law that could hold the key to understanding the limits of magic. It's like the final piece of a complex puzzle. Gamp was indeed a genius even I came to admire. McGonagall's expression grew more serious as she addressed the class. It's important to remember that much of what we know about magic is based on centuries of study and observation. Yet, the magical world is vast and full of mysteries. There may well be aspects of magic that we have yet to fully comprehend or discover. She paused, letting her words sink in. This is why the pursuit of knowledge in the magical arts is a lifelong endeavor. We must always be open to learning and exploring, even as we respect the boundaries and laws that govern our world. The class sat in thoughtful silence, digesting the profound nature of McGonagall's words. Harry felt a sense of awe at the vastness and complexity of the magical world he was part of. It was a world that constantly challenged and surprised him. As the lesson drew to a close, McGonagall assigned them their first practical exercise, turning a matchstick into a needle. The class eagerly began their attempts, their wands flicking through the air as they focused intently on their matchsticks. Harry had already mastered the matchstick-to-needle transfiguration before arriving at Hogwarts. His previous creation was so intricate and detailed that it could have been considered a treasure by many. And he had accomplished this feat without the aid of a wand. Now, with a wand in hand, he visualized the needle in his mind's eye, silver, pointed, with a thicker base and a thread eye at the base. His focus on detail was impeccable, drawing from his rich imagination. He envisioned a Quidditch match along the needle's length, a nod to Professor McGonagall's well-known passion for the sport. On one side, he crafted the colors of Slytherin, green and silver, and on the other, the bold red and gold of Gryffindor. The scene was complete from the poles to the players, bludgers, and even the snitch, which formed the tip of the needle, shimmering like the elusive golden ball. Next, Harry considered the material transformation. A common beginner's mistake was to turn the wooden matchstick into a silver-colored wood instead of metal. He focused on the cold, metallic touch of a needle, its unique sound when tapped against a desk. With every detail vividly etched in his mind, Harry waved his wand. Magic took over, and the matchstick transmuted into a splendidly crafted needle, a blend of silver and gold, adorned with green and red accents. McGonagall, her eyes catching the light reflecting off the extraordinary needle, approached Harry's desk. The class fell silent, their eyes fixed on the professor as she reached out to inspect the needle. "This is quite remarkable, Mr. Potter," she said, her voice tinged with a blend of surprise and admiration. The needle glistened under the classroom lights, its intricate design and meticulous detail showcasing Harry's exceptional skill and creativity. Harry looked up, a modest smile on his face. "Thank you, Professor. It's just a little something I thought of," he replied, his voice calm yet filled with a quiet confidence. McGonagall held the needle up, turning it this way and that, allowing the class to see its full splendor. 15 points to Slytherin for exceptional craftsmanship and creativity in transfiguration, she announced, her eyes still fixed on the needle. The class erupted into murmurs of astonishment and envy, especially from Hermione Granger, who stared at the needle with a mixture of awe and a hint of jealousy. Her eyes darted between the needle and her own matchstick, which had only managed a crude transformation. McGonagall turned back to Harry, her expression one of sincere appreciation. "Mr. Potter, may I keep this as an example for future classes? This is, without a doubt, one of the finest examples of beginner transfiguration I have ever seen." Harry nodded, a sense of pride swelling within him. "Of course, Professor, I'd be honored," he said, handing her the needle. As McGonagall placed the needle carefully in a small box, she added, "You have a rare talent, Mr. Potter. I look forward to seeing how you develop it further in my class." The rest of the class was a blur for Harry, with his classmates casting curious glances and whispers his way. Daphne and Tracy, sitting nearby, shared a look of admiration and slight disbelief at Harry's skill. As the class dispersed, Nigel's voice resonated in Harry's mind. "Well done, Master Harry. You've managed to needle your way into the professor's good graces on the very first day. Can I boldly say you thread your path to her approval quite skillfully? Harry couldn't help but chuckle at Nigel's pun. It seems so, Nigel. But let's keep our focus. We have much to learn and achieve. The further I go, harder it will become. Following his successful display in Transfiguration class, Harry found himself flanked by Daphne and Tracy as they made their way to defense against the dark arts the next day. His remarkable skill had quickly made him a topic of conversation in Slytherin House, and Tracy was particularly keen on uncovering his secrets. Potter, how are you so good at it? I can't turn it at all, Tracy implored, her eyes wide with curiosity. Harry, with a hint of patience in his voice, responded, I've already told you, it's all about imagination. You have to envision the outcome in minute detail. Tracy pouted in frustration. I told you, it doesn't work for me. Harry sighed, realizing she needed more guidance. That's because you're not visualizing correctly. He glanced around, spotting an empty classroom. Quickly, he guided them inside and closed the door. The girls blushed, misunderstanding his intention. What are you doing? They asked in unison. Harry, oblivious to their reaction, produced 2 matchsticks from his sleeve. The girls, seeing the matchsticks, relaxed. Oh, they said, realizing their imaginations had momentarily strayed. Where did you get those? Daphne inquired, her curiosity piqued. Harry smirked, his eyes twinkling. Magic, he replied playfully. With a swift motion, he transformed the matchsticks into needles. They were less ornate than the one he created for McGonagall but equally realistic. He handed them to the girls, who examined them with awe. Now, hold these, he instructed, passing them each a new matchstick. Feel their coldness, hardness, their color, how they reflect the light. The girls did as told, their fingers gingerly touching the matchsticks. Harry watched, offering guidance. Imagine the weight of the needle in your hand, the sharpness of its point. Envision the silver sheen, the way it gleams under the light. Daphne and Tracy closed their eyes, concentrating. Harry continued, picture every detail, the texture, the length, the thinness. It's not just about what you see, but what you feel. He paused, then added the crucial part. Most importantly, flick your nail against them and feel the sound it makes. The girls, their astonishment evident, flicked their fingers against the needles. A metallic ting resonated, confirming the transformation's authenticity. You see, the key is in the details, Harry explained, his tone didactic. You have to involve all your senses. Imagine not just what it looks like, but what it feels like, sounds like. That's the secret. The girls nodded, their expressions focused. Harry encouraged them, now, try the spell again, but keep that image, those sensations, in your mind. Daphne went first. Her wand moved with newfound confidence, guided by the vivid image in her mind. The matchstick trembled, then slowly transformed, taking on the sheen and shape of a needle. She gasped in delight, her eyes sparkling with triumph. Tracy, inspired by Daphne's success, followed suit. Her transformation was slower, but the result was equally impressive. Her needle gleamed under the dim light of the classroom. Harry smiled, pleased with their progress. See, it's all about the details. The more vividly you imagine, the more precise your magic. The girls looked at their needles, then at Harry, their expressions a mix of gratitude and newfound respect. Daphne, her voice tinged with admiration, said, that was brilliant, Potter. Thank you. Tracy, still staring at her needle, added, you really have a gift for this. Harry shrugged modestly, it's just practice and a bit of imagination. As they prepared to leave the classroom, Nigel's voice echoed in Harry's mind, his tone infused with a suggestive tone. Well, Master Harry, it seems you've just started a needle revolution in Slytherin. Next, they'll be wanting you to turn teacups into turtles. Harry chuckled in his mind. So long as they are dragons. Snakes are fine too. I can probably dissuade them. As they exited the classroom, Daphne and Tracy continued to discuss their newfound skills, their voices filled with excitement.